Chapter 1460. By the time the evil dragon god reacted, he immediately knew that he had been tricked. What happened just now must have been a kind of illusion, which was why the evil dragon god was intimidated in an instant. Then he raised his head and saw that the evil dragon eye had fallen into Li Zhongjio's hands. "You, just who are you?" the evil dragon god roared. Li Zhongjio played with the evil dragon eye in his hand. This evil dragon was a heavenly dragon. The ape clan that he had seen before had this kind of aura. So when Li Zhongjio saw the evil dragon eye in his hand, he had an extremely direct feeling. Was it an existence on the same level as the ape clan? Li Zhongjio held the evil dragon eye in his hand. Feeling the power coming from the evil dragon eye, he immediately knew that he had to go a long way in order to raise his strength to such a level. The gap between their realms was simply too great. This feeling was like a tiny ant meeting a giant dragon that could fly into the sky and dive into the ground. No wonder this brat is so confident that he can control the dragon clan. Li Zhongjio also understood something in his heart. After all, with such a precious treasure in his hand, the power he could unleash was naturally extraordinary. However, Li Zhongjio also felt that the evil dragon's eye had an extremely strong bewitching power, and even a powerful controlling power. If his own willpower wasn't enough, it would be very difficult for him to control the evil dragon's eye. Perhaps in the end, he might even be controlled by the evil dragon eye. Li Zhongjio guessed that the evil dragon god in front of him was in such a situation. "Return the evil dragon eye to me." The evil dragon god roared, and the yuan energy on his body exploded out once again, blasting towards the person in front of him. "Be a good boy and stay in this hell." Li Zhongjio moved his finger, and a power restrained the evil dragon god. Immediately, the evil dragon god felt the energy on his body being rapidly devoured. Just now, Li Zhongjio was also aided by the black dragon origin soul. He had condensed his own dark hell. The attribute of the hell of darkness was to devour. Darkness devoured darkness. Whoever had a deeper and stronger darkness energy would be able to devour the darkness energy. Therefore, after Li Zhongjio devoured the evil dragon god's darkness domain, it was equivalent to increasing his own cultivation in the darkness domain. Right now, the evil dragon god was at his wit's end in his own hell. Without any other source of power, they could only be easily trapped in Li Zhongjio's hell. No! All around the darkness in an instant. The evil dragon god felt the pressure coming from all around him. This kind of devouring was suffocating and shocking. Darkness quickly engulfed the evil dragon god. With a wave of his hand, Li Zhongjio dispersed the surrounding power. He landed on the ground. Everyone turned to look at him. They wanted to see who had won and who had lost. However, when everyone saw that Li Zhongjio had appeared and the evil dragon god was nowhere to be seen, the remaining 4 dragon clan patriarchs were all shocked. "Where's the evil dragon god?" Looking around, they couldn't find any trace of the evil dragon god. This immediately made them nervous. Long Ji's eyes lit up. "It's done? Oh my god." Although Long Ji had confidence in Li Zhongjio, what kind of person was the evil dragon god? Even the 3 wardens of the Draconic Penitentiary couldn't defeat him. They could only temporarily hold him back. The evil dragon god had single-handedly turned the entire dragon clan into such a state. In fact, he didn't rely on much talent, but the power of the evil dragon eye. Otherwise, no matter how talented he was, he wouldn't be able to do this. It was truly shocking. He had even turned the entire dragon island against him. Even the Draconic Penitentiary couldn't do such a thing. Then, Long Ji saw the 2 wardens lying on the ground. They seemed to be severely injured due to exhaustion. However, Long Ji quickly helped the 2 wardens up and found that they weren't injured at all. They looked more like they were asleep. They were hypnotized. Li Zhongjio said, "Hypnotized?" It wasn't easy to hypnotize someone at the warden's level. Clearly, this wasn't Li Zhongjio's doing, but the evil dragon god. However, when she looked around, she couldn't see the evil dragon god. "Where's the evil dragon god?" Long Ji asked. At the same time, she injected yuan energy into the 2 wardens' bodies. It helped the 2 wardens recover as soon as possible. They were only slightly affected, so it wasn't a big deal. She just needed to wake them up. I took it, Li Zongjio said indifferently. He didn't explain too much. At the same time, he looked at the remaining 4 Dragon Clan leaders. The 4 of them were immediately shocked. Obviously, Li Zongjio had killed them. Now it was time to kill them. However, looking at Li Zongjio, he didn't seem to be interested in taking action. Spread the word that I, evil Lord Li Zongjio, will kill every member of the devouring Yuan clan on sight, Li Zongjio said to the leaders of the 4 dragon clans. At the same time, it was a warning to Long Ji and the others. Tell them, even if you're from the Dragon Clan, don't even think about cooperating with the devouring Yuan clan. If Li Zongjio found out, he would really kill every member of the devouring Yuan clan on sight. Next, Li Zongjio would form a team to exterminate the devouring Yuan clan. They would hunt down the members of the devouring Yuan clan all over the continent. He wanted to kill every single one of them. In this regard, Li Zongjio had never been lenient. He had to kill every single one of them. The 4 Dragon Clan leaders heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like Li Zongjio didn't want to find trouble with them. In that case, they were naturally relieved. If they really fought, they would die without a doubt. However, even if Li Zongjio didn't deal with them, the people in the Draconic Penitentiary would. It would be troublesome. The 4 Dragon Clan leaders looked at each other and then flew away at the same time. At least, it would be extremely dangerous if they continued to stay here. Perhaps, the people in the Draconic Penitentiary would want to kill them now. Hence, everyone immediately ran away in a frenzy. Swoosh! Swoosh! The dragons that the clan leaders had brought along with them were also darting off into the distance swiftly. Now that such a serious situation had occurred, it wasn't easy for them to rebel, but they were overthrown. It really made them want to cry, but no tears came out. Was there anything more unlucky than this? It simply made people feel extremely miserable. If you find any traces of the devouring Yuan clan, remember to inform me, Li Zongjio said to Long Ji. Thank you, evil lord, for your help. Long Ji immediately cupped her hands and said to Li Zongjio. Even the people in the Draconic Penitentiary behind her bowed to Li Zongjio. It was quite a high level of etiquette, enough to prove their recognition and admiration for Li Zongjio's contribution this time. However, Li Zongjio didn't even look at them. He didn't care about the highest level of etiquette. Immediately, Li Zongjio's figure flickered. Boom! He disappeared into the sky. Now that he had finally obtained the evil dragon eye, Li Zongjio naturally wanted to study such a treasure. After all, if Li Zongjio wanted to break through, he had to start with the evil dragon eye. He didn't expect the evil dragon eye to give him such a big gift. After Li Zongjio left, the 2 wardens also woke up with the help of Long Ji. Evil dragon deity, Li Zongjio. None of you can leave? When the 2nd warden opened his eyes, the first thing he did was roar. Long Ji was stunned. What's wrong with the 2nd warden? Did he have a nightmare? 2nd master? What's the matter? Evil Lord has already subdued the evil dragon deity. Long Ji believed that the 2nd prison warden had suffered too much damage in the illusion. Or maybe he saw some hallucinations during the hypnosis. That's why this happened. However, the Great Master and the Great Warden didn't answer. They just remained silent. Their eyes were filled with hesitation. After all, this matter was indeed confusing. Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio killed a giant dragon, refined it into an original spirit, and stole the Dragon Clan's unique skill. The Draconic Penitentiary must kill him, the 2nd warden said in a cold voice. Naturally, the Draconic Penitentiary couldn't let Li Zongjio go. They must kill Li Zongjio. Get back the Dragon Clan's original spirit. No matter what the evil dragon deity did, it was the Dragon Clan's internal matter. Even if Li Zongjio didn't do anything, the Dragon Clan would still exist. It's just that the Draconic Penitentiary would disappear. However, Li Zongjio killed a giant dragon and forcibly refined it into an original spirit. With such a vicious method, it could even be said that this was already an irreconcilable enmity. The Dragon Clan's ancestral teachings would never allow such a thing to happen. The Draconic Penitentiary existed to ensure that the ancestral teachings could be carried out effectively. What? How is this possible? In Long Ji's heart, stormy waves were instantly set off. At the same time, her eyes widened. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1461. Long Ji immediately looked at the Great Master, who was also the Great Warden, with a look of seeking confirmation. Seeing the Great Warden's silent face, Long Ji knew in her heart that it was most likely true. Otherwise, the Great Master would not reveal such an expression. How could this be? Long Ji had never thought that there would be such a situation. Previously, when she saw Li Zongjio's attack, she did not think that Li Zongjio's power had anything to do with the Dragon Clan. Although he used the Dragon Clan's unique skills, there were many ways to obtain the unique skills of the Dragon Clan. Cruelly killing the Dragon Clan and refining them into origin spirits was one of them. Therefore, when she learned that Li Zongjio had done such a thing, she was shocked. She felt that it was inconceivable. As early as the time of the ancestors, the reason why the Dragon Clan was brought to Dragon Island was that a long time ago, the human clan discovered that the Dragon Clan's origin spirits had given them extraordinary power. Therefore, they began to secretly hunt the Dragon Clan. However, most of the Dragon Clan were noble and naturally would not be willing to become the origin spirits of the human clan. After that, the human clan used all kinds of terrifying means to hunt down the Dragon Clan and even some young dragons. Although there were many experts in the Dragon Clan, they could not stop the poaching of the human clan. Moreover, they only killed some young dragons. Later, the Dragon Clan could not defeat them and could not hide from them. Then they directly created Dragon Island. All the Dragon Clan directly gathered on Dragon Island. After that, the situation developed into such a situation. Moreover, such behavior of the human clan was listed as a forbidden area. The ancestral teachings were that if anyone did such a thing, they must gather the strength of the entire Dragon Island to kill them. Otherwise, the resentment of the Dragon Clan's undead would not be eliminated. And sooner or later, they would repeat the same mistake. To them, this was a very terrifying thing. There might be another battle between the human clan and the Dragon Clan. Therefore, this ancestral teaching had been left behind until now. It was necessary to clarify the matter. Great Master, Second Master, there must be a misunderstanding in this matter. How could Li Zongjio's actions be wrong when he saved the Dragon Penitentiary from danger? Long Ji quickly said, wanting to defend Li Zongjio. At the very least, he had to explain this matter clearly. Otherwise, the Draconic Penitentiary would have gone all out to hunt down Li Zongjio. There's no way to verify that. The head warden and I both saw it with our own eyes. The second warden said in a deep voice. There had to be something wrong with the way things were going. Their expressions were extremely solemn, leaving no room for doubt or rejection. The evil dragon god had just left. In the blink of an eye, he had to deal with another evil lord. However, Second Master, evil Lord Li Zongjio's strength is not something that we can withstand. Long Ji said hurriedly. Even though this was a great disrespect to the dragon race, it was still better than watching the Dragon Penitentiary die. How dare you? When has our Dragon Clan ever been afraid? The second warden said in a deep voice. At this moment, the second warden's aura was even more shocking. His aura was even stronger than when he faced the evil dragon god. When facing Li Zongjio, it was obvious that he would be even stronger. After all, Li Zongjio was just a human. In the eyes of the dragon race, Li Zongjio was just a slightly strong existence from a weak race. There was no need to be nervous about him. Long Ji wanted to say something, but she did not know what to say at this moment. If she had known this would happen, she would not have brought Li Zongjio here. The pursuit of the dragon race would be endless. From now on, the entire dragon race would start to deal with Li Zongjio. Long Ji saw an unprecedented determination in the second warden's eyes, as well as anger and hatred towards Li Zongjio. After all, what Li Zongjio did was unforgivable. If I see him again, I will not be merciful, even if he saved the dragon race. The second prison warden seemed to be saying that he would let Li Zongjio off this time and deal with Li Zongjio slowly in the future. The next time they meet, he would definitely not show any mercy. Long Ji wanted to say that he was being too impulsive. After all, Li Zongjio was so strong. Suddenly, there was a piercing sound. A figure instantly landed on the ground. Everyone looked over. The one who flew back was none other than Li Zongjio. Seeing Li Zongjio fly back, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Why did Li Zongjio come back? Could it be that he had overheard their conversation and wanted to come back and kill them? He even said that he would kill Li Zongjio the next time they met. At this moment, he actually subconsciously took a step back. The second warden did not expect Li Zongjio to turn back halfway. However, after Li Zongjio turned back, he did not pay attention to Long Ji and the others. Instead, he went to the White Dragon Tribe's clan leader. The White Dragon Tribe's clan leader was unlucky. He was killed by Li Zongjio's mind power. The Blood Dragon Tribe's clan leader and the Golden Dragon Tribe's clan leader were injured. But at least they were still alive. Li Zongjio came to the White Dragon Tribe's clan leader and punched his head. Boom! From the countless pieces of flesh, Li Zongjio accurately found the latter's Dragon Ball. This thing was very useful. It could be used to refine a kind of origin weapon and placed in the Li family's courtyard. It could be used to create an extremely powerful mind power cultivation treasure. Li Zongjio would not waste such a good material. After taking away the Dragon Ball of the White Dragon Tribe's clan leader, Li Zongjio left directly. The dragon's corpse. He did not like it. No matter how powerful it was just a dragon. What was so great about it? If he refined the dragon's corpse into something, there might be problems. It might even cause diarrhea. Last time, he braised a black dragon. Li Zongjio did not feel anything when he ate it. It was even harder to chew than ordinary meat. Therefore, he was not interested in the dragon's corpse. However, he could still have the Dragon Ball. He seemed to have felt the gaze of Long Ji and the others. Immediately, Li Zongjio waved the Dragon Ball in his hand. He was telling Long Ji that he had taken the Dragon Ball. As for the Dragon King's treasure house, if Long Ji did not deliver it to him personally, Li Zongjio would have to make another trip to Dragon Island and have a good talk with these people about the conditions that they had agreed on previously. He believed that Long Ji knew what to do. It was not worth Li Zongjio's time to search for the so-called Dragon King's treasure house on such a big island. To Li Zongjio, it was not worth it. He could have spent so much time looking for things here. Another air-piercing sound was heard. Li Zongjio left the Dragon Island again. The second warden, who was shouting so fiercely just now, did not make a move to deal with Li Zongjio. Even the second warden had shrunk back to his original position. After Li Zongjio left, the scene became a little awkward. Naturally, Long Ji would not expose the second warden's awkward situation. Instead, the head warden had to step up to maintain the scene. Let's clean up the mess first. The head warden was not in a hurry. He stepped up and took charge of the scene. The second warden was shocked by Li Zongjio just now. If he had said anything just now, he might have been killed by Li Zongjio. Indeed, he was quick to back down. The current situation on Dragon Island was very delicate. Although the Draconic Penitentiary had won this time, there would be a real revolution in the future. Many dragons would not be restrained by the Draconic Penitentiary after this. At this moment, the head warden of the Draconic Penitentiary's eyes turned cold. Let's put the matter of Li Zongjio aside for now. We have to rebuild the reputation of the Draconic Penitentiary. Chapter 1462. Li Zongjio did not know that the second warden wanted to touch him. They even wanted to keep him on this Dragon Island. However, even if Li Zongjio knew about it, he would not care. It was fine for him to talk about it. Li Zongjio was not a petty person. Do you think I can stop you from talking? However, if there were any signs of a fight, Li Zongjio would take action in advance and nip all the danger in the bud. Li Zongjio did not go back to Dawn City first. Instead, he went to Sacred Flame Royal City. Sacred Flame Royal City, White Deer Mansion. Li Zongjio did not hide his identity. He landed outside the city. He had not returned for many years because he wanted to see the current situation of Sacred Flame Royal City. However, Li Zongjio's identity was exposed after he entered the city for a short while. Tai-Fi quickly gathered many core members. There were not many of them, but they moved quickly and came in front of Li Zongjio. Greetings, young lord. Greetings, young lord. Tai Fai, Yinghu, Nangong Wuji, Pan Shi, and the others were among them. When they heard that Li Zongjio had returned to Sacred Flame Royal City, they immediately put down everything and came here. The passers-by saw the scene in front of them. Immediately, a look of shock appeared on their faces. How could these commoners not know the identity of Tai Fai and the others? They were the real underground emperors. Although Tai Fai was not the city lord now, he still had to make decisions. If the city lord could not make a decision, he would seek advice from Tai Fai. Tai Fai could mobilize all the city guards with just a word. It could be said that the entire Sacred Flame Royal City was in the hands of the White Deer Mansion. Anyone who wanted to develop in the city would have to greet the White Deer Mansion first. If they were able to greet the White Deer Mansion, it would be a truly smooth journey. Tai Fai's reputation was still very high. When they saw that Tai Fai had actually brought his men over and knelt down in front of Li Zongjio, the surrounding commoners widened their eyes and did not even dare to breathe loudly. He didn't know the identity of this kind-looking young man in front of him, but judging from his aura, he wasn't an ordinary person. "Rise, all of you," Li Zongjio said and asked everyone to stand up. "Young master." Tai Fai and the others stood up. They were clearly excited to see Li Zongjio. If it wasn't for Li Zongjio's guidance, they wouldn't even know what they were now. How could they still be so influential in the Sacred Flame Royal City? How could they have such a high status? How could they be respected by everyone? "Old man Nangong, how have you been?" Li Zongjio looked at Nangong Wuji and said. Now, the White Deer Mansion had become a place for Nangong Wuji to retire. Nangong Wuji was considered one of the faster ones to get into the car. Although he had a small motive at that time, he had worked for Li Zongjio many times and even personally designed everything in the White Deer Mansion. Li Zongjio was also very satisfied. Many things had changed. Many things related to Li Zongjio were now quietly changing. However, Li Zongjio didn't care about this. Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Imperial Martial Pavilion, and a series of academies were now famous all over the world. Many of the Li family's disciples were also studying in these great academies. Where's Xiao Zhao? Li Zongjio did not really care about the lives of the others. However, Xiao Zhao was the head of the White Deer Mansion. Most of the things were handed over to Xiao Zhao. Steward Zhao is now running around outside. The academy named by the Li family has been built. He's visiting famous teachers and inviting them to enter. Nangong Wuji said. The few of them were also heading towards the White Deer residence. Li Zongjio naturally remembered that the Li family built the Heavenly Sect Academy. Moreover, the dean of the Heavenly Sect Academy was Kun Arashi's sister, Lan Yun. The situation in the Xingyan dynasty was very good. It could be said that the dynasty was really stable and prosperous. Even if there were some thieves, they wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. After all, no matter how good the social environment was, there would always be people who reaped without sowing. There would always be people who caused trouble. However, most of them were good, so many people needed to learn. When the conditions were good, the education naturally had to keep up. Heavenly Sect Academy, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Songhai Academy, and many other academies were also very many. It was really a place where hundreds of flowers were blooming. Who's so arrogant? He even wants Xiao Zhao to go personally? Li Zongjio was unhappy when he heard that. Letting you teach is giving you face. If you dare to put on airs in front of Li Zongjio, he will destroy you in minutes. He had never seen anyone who wasn't afraid of death. Steward Zhao said that if we invite someone to teach, we should be sincere. That's the only way to show respect for the teacher. I'll give him an order. Tell him to report to me in 2 days. Otherwise, he doesn't need to come. Li Zongjio said unceremoniously. In this world, there was no one who needed Li Zongjio to invite. He was really giving these people too much face. Li Zongjio didn't need to be so polite. If you give me face, I'll give you face. If I want to give you face, I'll give you face. But if you say that I don't want to give you face, you won't even have a hair. That person's status is extremely special. In the past, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's palace master had personally invited that person but was rejected. It is said that that person's qualifications are even above the heavenly star medicine Manor's palace master. Nangong Wuji pondered for a moment. In fact, there were quite a number of top experts hidden within the Saint Flame Empire. Originally, it was time for them to reveal themselves and display their strength. However, Li Zongjio had appeared out of nowhere and solved many problems for them. Therefore, these reclusive experts were forced to continue hiding, because there was no need for them to show themselves. But they had been hiding for too long, and even began to forget how fast the outside world changed. Li Zongjio didn't mind telling these people how fast it changed. Oh, who is he? Li Zongjio's interest was piqued. He didn't expect there to be such a person. This person's name is Zhong Xianshan. 200 years ago, he was already famous for his elixir skills. He's also a top array master. Now, he is basically in seclusion and doesn't care about the world. If we can invite this person, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor will become the undisputed #1 in the continent. Nangong Wuji said. I thought he was very powerful. Li Zongjio smiled disdainfully. He had heard of this person in his previous life, but he had never met him. It was said that this person had offended the Dragon Clan, so he had been hiding in the array all day long like a coward. Of course, Li Zongjio didn't know the details. He didn't ask when he died, so he didn't know either. The few of them returned to White Deer residence as they chatted. Chapter 1463. The news of Li Zongjio's return was extremely low-key. However, it caused a huge uproar in the entire White Deer residence. Under such circumstances, everyone expressed their desire to pay a visit to Li Zongjio. After all, he was a true god. Therefore, they had to pay their respects to him. However, these people were stopped by Tai-Fi at the door. What kind of people were they? How dare they come to visit Li Zongjio? Was he someone that ordinary people could meet just because they wanted to? Soon, Li Yun received the news and rushed over. After all, she was the king of the underground world. Usually, Li Yun did not need to manage the Ghost King Palace too much. She only needed to cultivate in the Ghost King Palace. As the successor of the King of Fire, Li Yun was quite famous in the underworld. Moreover, she had a godlike younger brother, Li Zongjio. Basically, no one dared to stir up trouble. Just by casually announcing his name, no one would dare to provoke him. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming back? Li Yun complained when she saw Li Zongjio sitting above and seemed to be in the middle of a meeting. I just came back to settle some things. Since you're here, ask your men to gather information about the Devouring Yuan clan and report it immediately. Kill them if you can. Li Zongjio said. He happened to be talking about the Devouring Yuan clan with these people just now. However, these people obviously had not heard of the Devouring Yuan clan. Being able to hear about the ancient demon race was already very good. At least they could come in contact with this realm. But after Li Zongjio gave the order, he believed that these people would be able to act very quickly. At least, it wouldn't be difficult for them to figure out the doorway. These people would not be able to escape. Devouring Yuan clan? Didn't they go extinct long ago? Nangong Wuji seemed to have heard about it. However, according to what he heard, these people seemed to have gone extinct long ago and no longer existed. He did not expect to hear such news again. This was a very terrifying race. It had 3 eyes. Although it looked like a human, it was completely different from the human race. It was known as the 3-eyed demon. Since Li Zongjio mentioned it, it meant that there must be traces of some people. Alright, I'll go back now and let them handle it. Li Yun said. This kind of thing was handled very quickly, and it didn't need to waste much energy. The specific information of the Devouring Yuan clans still needed to be investigated thoroughly. In addition, there may be traces of the abyssal race in the North Sea. You should gather information as soon as possible and make preparations. Li Zongjio said. As for Li Zongjio's Sky Martial Arc, it wasn't appropriate for him to hand it over to them for the time being. After all, these people didn't know how to pilot it. When Xiao Zhao returned and handed over the Sky Martial Arc, he would definitely be able to make the best use of it. Li Zongjio was the only one who knew about all these major events in advance. After all, the realm was different. This was also the reason why one had to constantly improve one's level. because only then could one see higher and further, and always be one step ahead of others. Instead of being kept in the dark forever, Li Zongjio had a meal with everyone. After arranging some work, he routinely rewarded his subordinates. After all, these people stayed here not only to enjoy the privileges they had now, but also to think about how to obtain some heaven-defying benefits. This was the most important thing. At the same time, there was news from the Tianyin dynasty that there wouldn't be any more incidents in the future. Therefore, everyone returned to their own dynasties. Li Tianqing was safe and sound. After all, the great elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace were here. There was nothing to worry about. The people of the Sparrow Divine Palace weren't that tactless. They escorted Li Tianqing back to the Luoxia city. At the same time, they were thinking of establishing the location of the Sparrow Divine Palace. However, without Qi Yanran's approval, they didn't dare to do so. After all, the real palace master was Qi Yanran. Whether Li Zongjio came back or not, the order here would still be carried out. Even if he came back, there wouldn't be any impact. After all, Li Zongjio wasn't interested in these things for the time being. Originally, he wanted to go to the Sky Sect Academy to take a look. After all, Li Zongjio came to the Sky Sect Academy with high hopes. But before that, he had to check on Qi Yanran's situation first. After all, Qi Yanran was trapped in the Green Bird platform. They needed to find out the exact situation first. After Li Zongjio checked the Green Bird platform, he found that his strength couldn't enter it. It was even difficult to affect it. Logically speaking, Li Zongjio shouldn't even be able to check on Qi Yanran's situation. This was also because Qi Yanran subconsciously trusted Li Zongjio. Therefore, the Green Bird platform could sense it and allowed Li Zongjio to investigate the situation inside. I didn't expect that even with my strength, I still couldn't shake the inside of the Green Bird platform. What exactly is this thing? Li Zongjio was completely convinced. Gradually, Li Zongjio also figured out the knack of it. It seemed that Dragon Island, the Green Bird platform, the blade of creation in the hands of the heavenly demon tribe, and even Li Zongjio's 10,000 dragon hammer came from an existence similar to the sky dragon's tooth. It was just that he didn't know why it had appeared here. Upper world. This was a very new term. Then, Li Zongjio took out the evil dragon eye. The energy contained in this thing wasn't simple. Li Zongjio wanted to study it and see if he could extract the energy from it. At the very least, he wanted to study what kind of power system it was. At Li Zongjio's level, his strength didn't rely on cultivation or absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth. He didn't know how much yuan qi he absorbed, but it didn't have much effect on Li Zongjio. Therefore, it was more important for him to comprehend it. If he could comprehend it thoroughly, he would be able to find the direction to break through this power and know how to cultivate it. The evil dragon eye. Because of this thing, the evil dragon brat was able to withstand the pressure of all the dragon tribes on Dragon Island and carry out a real rebellion. To be able to do this, strength alone wasn't enough. However, Li Zongjio didn't think this guy was very smart. The evil dragon eye. In his hand was a pitch-black bead. It was slightly heavy. It seemed to only weigh about 3 to 5 caddies, but in fact, the inner world of this bead contained a world of its own. When one was immersed in it, one would feel the weight inside. It wasn't that simple. Therefore, Li Zongjio was also feeling the power inside. The deeper one's strength was, the more weight one could feel, the greater the weight one could feel. At this moment, Li Zongjio was also immersed in this infinite comprehension. His mind was immersed in it, just as Li Zongjio was cultivating. At this moment, Xiao Zhao was running around for the Sky Sect Academy. He had already arrived at the foot of Green Bamboo Mountain. There was a bamboo forest with a radius of close to 10,000 mu in the vicinity. It was lush and verdant. When the wind blew, all the leaves intertwined together, as if playing a symphony. Xiao Zhao had been here for 2 days. However, Senior Zhong Xianshan didn't seem to want to meet Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao only brought one expert with him. It was Pavilion Master Yunqi of Zishuan Pavilion. Previously, she was only Palace Master Yunqi. Now, she was directly the Pavilion Master of Zishuan Pavilion. Palace Master Yunqi originally wanted to bring the top assassins of the Guzhong clan with her. If this person was unwilling, she would at least let them know how powerful she was. However, Xiao Zhao refused. After all, this time, they were going to invite him out of the mountain. It was already relative. If they disturbed him, they had to move him with sincerity. This bamboo forest is truly ever-changing. We've already gone up there 3 times. Every time, we've unknowingly been sent back. Yun Qi's expression was a little ugly. This time, he came in person. Not only did he not invite him out, he didn't even see his face. He was directly rejected at the door. This made him very angry. You should at least say something if you want to go or not. You didn't say anything for half a day. You didn't even come out. How much did you look down on them? These people really don't know what's good for them. If young master comes, this person will definitely suffer. Yunqi said, "Don't be so rude." The other party is a well-deserved grandmaster of alchemy. If you want to invite him out of the mountain, you naturally need to be sincere. Xiao Zhao said, "Come, let's go again. Maybe this time, we'll succeed." Chapter 1464. The power within the evil dragon's eye seemed to have swallowed Li Zongjiu's entire being. It was as if he was swimming in a sea of power. Then, Li Zongjiu used his own will to transform into a hammer. He arrived at the evil dragon's eye. Li Zongjiu felt as if he had arrived at the inner world of the evil dragon's eye. However, the inner world in front of him was an eye-opener for Li Zongjiu. Looking around, this place seemed to be a training ground. When Li Zongjiu arrived here, it was as if he was a newbie. Below his feet was a muddy swamp. At first, it was calm. However, all of a sudden, a terrifying force appeared beneath his feet. Within the muddy swamp, there seemed to be dozens of fat figures rushing towards Li Zongjiu. Hydra! When Li Zongjiu saw these things flying towards him, a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He immediately saw what the thing that had rushed out was. A mere Hydra dares to be impudent in front of me. If Li Zongjiu remembered correctly, this Hydra should be a creature belonging to the demon race. He had never seen such an existence among the meta beasts. Immediately, the Hydra descended. Li Zongjiu directly clashed with it. Boom! When their powers collided, a terrifying shockwave was created. In the next second, Li Zongjiu was dragged into the swamp by the Hydra. It was difficult for him to get up. Snore! After Li Zongjiu was dragged down, he immediately felt a strong sense of oppression. The Hydra's 9 heads quickly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Under this illusion, Li Zongjiu's power seemed to have disappeared. He had completely turned into an ordinary person. As the Hydra continued to attack, Li Zongjiu felt that his body was constantly being torn apart, but at the same time, it was constantly being repaired and then continued to be torn apart. The whole process was clean and tidy, but Li Zongjiu's mental strength could not last forever. After experiencing tens of thousands of moments of being torn apart, Li Zongjiu finally blacked out. When he opened his eyes again, he was already back in his secret cultivation room, as if he had never left. Fuck, what the hell is this? It's so ferocious. Li Zongjiu was completely frightened. There was actually such a difficult trial. Even he couldn't withstand it. However, Li Zongjiu could also sense the existence of such a powerful force. Even if he was at his peak, he might not have a chance of winning against this colossus in front of him. After all, the other party's strength was not simple. This made Li Zongjiu even more surprised. The level of the other party's power. It was not at the level that Li Zongjiu was at now. The difference was many times greater. In front of the Hydra, Li Zongjiu could not withstand it. That was why Li Zongjiu was so shocked. Take a break, let's do it again. Although Li Zongjiu had been caught unprepared by the power just now, this crazy hell trial had actually been beneficial to him. Li Zongjiu could feel the level of the other party's power even more clearly. What was power? Words alone might not be enough to describe it. If you really wanted to feel it, you still needed the other party to directly attack. You would know how powerful it was after fighting once. The trial field in front of him was already enough to feel how powerful it was. Li Zongjiu had never encountered such a situation. Again! Little did he know that Li Zhongjio's strength was already extremely terrifying. Even if the evil dragon god entered the evil god's eye to resist, he would not be able to resist more than 10,000 times just by relying on his own willpower. Li Zhongjio's willpower sank. He entered the evil dragon's eye again. Boom! In just a short moment, the Hydra appeared in the swamp below his feet again. The Hydra directly overturned the river and the sea, trampling over the waves. The scene could be said to have been turned upside down, surging violently. At first, Li Zhongjio could only rely on his own intuition to catch the first 100 attacks and easily dodge them. Later on, the other party's movements became stronger and stronger. He was dragged into the mud and had no chance of escaping. The overwhelming power came crashing down, almost completely suppressing Li Zhongjio. He opened his eyes and reappeared in the same place. 15,000 times. Li Zhongjio memorized this number in his heart. This was easy to remember. Later on, there was no need to resist at all. All he had to do was calculate the numbers. So Li Zhongjio also memorized his own situation. After 7 or 8 times in a row, Li Zhongjio felt a little tired. He immediately got up and walked outside to get some fresh air. He sensed Qi Yanran, who was in the Green Bird Dao platform. Speaking of which, it was strange. After entering the world of the evil dragon's eye and training, it was very easy and was even more accepted by the Green Bird Dao platform. This was what Li Zhongjio felt. Previously, the Green Bird Dao platform allowed Li Zhongjio to explore because of Qi Yanran's face. But now, it allowed him to explore because of his strength. Otherwise, with his arrogant attitude, if he wanted to investigate anything, he would be sent flying in an instant. Looks like it will take at least 2 or 3 months to recover. The more Li Zhongjio looked at it, the angrier he became. He casually called someone to call Taifai. After all, Li Zhongjio was not familiar with the others. So, calling Taifai was the most direct and effective way. I asked you to find information about the devouring Yuan clan. How is it going? Li Zhongjio asked. Tai Feihe hurried over. At the same time, he seemed to have a lot on his mind and was very anxious. Young lord, we have some clues about the devouring Yuan clan. Now, we know that the devouring Yuan clan is most likely in the Yellow River area. Li Zhongjio remembered that a lot of things had happened in Yellow River before. There was a genius in Yellow River. He wondered how he was doing now. Now, Li Zhongjio was almost standing at the peak of the Xingyan dynasty. However, Li Zhongjio was only one person. There were bound to be local experts in various big places. When there were experts outside, Li Zhongjio would directly hide and avoid the world. If there was a great calamity in the world, or if there was a chance to take advantage of it, these people would immediately appear. Moreover, each one of them was more famous than the other. Normally, one might not be able to recall them, but after he jumped out and said this, it seemed like they had a lot of background. Looks like I have to go to Yellow River. Li Zhongjio's eyes flashed with killing intent. What happened in Yellow River had nothing to do with him. What he wanted to do was to find out where the devouring Yuan clan was and kill them all. Only in this way could he eliminate the hatred in his heart. He wanted to teach these audacious people a lesson. This was how evil Lord Li Zhongjio did things. Reason? Benevolence? Talk about it in hell. Li Zhongjio did not have the time to waste on these things. Why do you look so anxious? Li Zhongjio looked at Taifai. Taifai told him the truth. He told him the whole story. Xiao Zhao and Yun Qi went to find Zhong Xianshan. However, Zhong Xianshan did not like them. Later, they were trapped in the formation and sent out a distress signal. When Li Yun heard about this, she quickly rushed to Green Bamboo Mountain. However, Li Yun seemed to be trapped in Green Bamboo Mountain as well. Therefore, Taifai could not wait any longer. He had to settle this matter. If Li Zhongjio came out and found out that he could not handle such a small matter, it would be worse if he crippled him. How dare you? I've been feeling a little sullen recently. Let me loosen up my muscles. Li Zhongjio's lips curled into a cold smile. Lead the way. Let old man Nangong come along. Li Zhongjio said. In the next moment, a huge airship appeared in the sky above the White Deer Mansion. When the airship appeared, Li Yunmu's eyes lit up. Everyone in the city could see it clearly. Several figures flew onto the airship. When the guards in the city saw the airship appear, they were all shocked. However, when they saw that the airship had appeared from the White Deer Mansion, they sighed. They immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Found it. We finally found it. In the Sacred Flame Imperial City. In a romantic place, a strong old man's eyes lit up when he saw the airship appear. The Heavenly Marshal airship. He had been searching for it for a long time. Immediately, the old man jumped out of the window and flew out, leaving the ground full of women chattering and swallowing. Hey, you haven't paid yet? The Heavenly Marshal airship had just risen into the sky. Tai-Fi and the others were feeling the power of the airship brought back by their young master. They were extremely excited. He was indeed their young master. Before everyone could stabilize their bodies, they suddenly saw a figure land on the deck. Who is it? Nangong Wuji's aura was greatly boosted. In just 2 years, he had reached the peak of the primitive emperor realm. However, the newcomer did not take Nangong Wuji's aura seriously. This caused Nangong Wuji to be greatly alarmed. The old man in front of him seemed to be very strong. Master, I'm back, Master. Qing Shilong was in front of the deck, shouting at Li Zongjio. Chapter 1465. Ever since Qing Shilong was thrown into the sea by Li Zongjio. When Qing Shilong saw Long Ji from the Dragon Penitentiary, he fled in panic. Originally, he wanted to run for his life. Although it was not a big deal to lose his Dragon Ball, he still wanted to escape. However, when Qing Shilong returned to the Dragon Island and inquired about the situation, he found out that Li Zongjio had turned the Dragon Island upside down. After hearing this, how could Qing Shilong not know the seriousness of this matter? Who knew that Li Zongjio had such a powerful strength? It was simply terrifying. It was said that he had even dealt with the evil dragon god. Originally, Qing Shilong obeyed the command of the evil dragon god. However, the evil dragon god was unexpectedly dealt with by Li Zongjio. How could he not know Li Zongjio's strength? Now that the Dragon Ball was in Li Zongjio's hands, he came here with a thick face. What was the use of this face? It was better to use his own Dragon Ball. Previously, he was afraid that Long Ji from the Dragon Penitentiary would punish him. But now, it seemed that Li Zongjio was the real king. Even if he pulled the carriage under Li Zongjio, he would still have a bright future. Master? Nangong Wuji and Nangong Wuji were astonished when they heard the old man's call. The old man in front of them wasn't an ordinary person. The person who could become the old man's master must be a pinnacle existence. On this ship, the only person who met this requirement was Li Zongjio. You're the young master's servant? Tai-Fi said. At this moment, Li Zongjio also came out from the cabin and glanced at Qing Shilong in front of him. Oh, since you're back, you can pull the carriage. Li Zongjio was wondering who had caused such a big commotion. Seeing that it was Qing Shilong who was getting weaker by the day, Li Zongjio knew that this guy was scared. Li Zongjio didn't care about the Bluestone Dragon. You can do whatever you want. Anyway, they can't pose a threat. At least for now, they are quite obedient. Since they can be tamed, Li Zongjio didn't mind raising a few giant dragons. Yes, master. Qing Shilong was pleasantly surprised. The Dragon Ball was still on Li Zongjio's body. Although Qing Shilong couldn't retrieve the Dragon Ball now, as long as he stayed next to the Dragon Ball, he would be able to maintain his strength. Otherwise, his strength would gradually decline. If the rate of decline was too fast, it would be difficult to recover in the future. Therefore, after Qing Shilong understood the situation clearly, he came to find Li Zongjio without hesitation. However, on the way here, he went to have some fun and found that the human world was actually so fun. However, Qing Shilong couldn't continue like this. Otherwise, once he exposed his true form in front of the human race, without the Dragon Ball in hand, he would be hunted down by experts. Now that he had boarded Li Zongjio's ship, there was naturally nothing to be afraid of. Qing Shilong shook his body and changed. Then, he put on the noose that he had made on the ship and immediately moved. Immediately, he flew forward. A giant dragon came to pull the Tianwu ship. The Tianwu ship was already very imposing. Now they saw the giant dragon appear. Both of them were almost scared out of their wits. My God! This is the legendary giant dragon? Obviously, both of them couldn't believe it. Although Nangong Wuji knew about the existence of Dragon Island, he had never seen the giant dragon tribe with his own eyes. After all, the giant dragon tribe had disappeared for a long time. Recently, there was a disturbance about the dragon tribe. However, Nangong Wuji didn't need to deal with these matters for the time being. Therefore, when they saw the dragon tribe in front of them for the first time, in the eyes of the two of them, it was only then that people were truly shocked. Boom! Qing Shilong directly flew forward with the Tianwu ship. However, Taifai saw that the situation in front of him was not right. The direction is wrong. This direction. The oncoming wind was too strong. Therefore, Taifai didn't know whether the Qing Shilong in front of him could hear him or not. After all, this giant dragon's body was quite huge. Sure enough, the Qing Shilong seemed to be able to understand him. He quickly changed his direction and flew in the direction that Taifai pointed. Boo! Being dragged by a giant dragon. Damn it, who would dare to believe it? Both of them were obviously excited. At this moment, they seemed to have become the pinnacle figures who could ride the clouds and step on the sky. Qing Shilong also put in a lot of effort. Originally, it would take at least 10 hours. In just 4 hours, the green bamboo mountain could be seen with the naked eye. It was not far ahead. On the green bamboo mountain, countless emerald green bamboos were swaying in the wind. At this moment, looking from afar, this bamboo forest was swaying with the wind. It was extremely beautiful. However, in this sea of bamboos, there were 3 figures trapped in it. Li Yun used what she had learned in her life to find Xiao Zhao and Qing Shilong in time. However, in the blink of an eye, she was trapped in the sea of bamboos. Li Yun couldn't do anything about the opponent's formation. If she calmed down, there was a chance to break it. However, the opponent obviously didn't give Li Yun this opportunity. They continued to attack in the bamboo forest. Li Yun didn't have enough time to explore the surrounding situation. Instead, she was restricted everywhere. It's difficult. I can't calm down to break the formation. The opponent's sea of bamboos formation is at least a 9th level formation. Now, my formation cultivation is only at the 8th level. Li Yun's formation cultivation had already broken through to the 8th level. If she was compared to people of the same age, she would be considered an extremely heaven-defying existence. Who could achieve this level of strength at such a young age? Li Yun immediately tried her best to break the formation. The opponent could be said to have used all his means. If not for Li Yun's timely arrival, the two of them would have been killed by the person in front of them. Seeing this, Xiao Zhao once again shouted to the empty space in the sea of bamboos. If Senior Zhong doesn't want to be disturbed, we will leave. If we touch the people of White Deer Mansion, do you think you can withstand the power of Evil Lord? Xiao Zhao's voice was like an arrow filled with penetrating power, shooting forward. However, after Xiao Zhao warned the other party, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the sea of bamboos. This figure was formed by the condensation of the bamboo leaves. Zhong Xianshan. This person was the legendary Zhong Xianshan, the alchemy grandmaster from 300 years ago. The appearance of the figure formed by the bamboo leaves could not be seen clearly. After Zhong Xianshan appeared, he laughed disdainfully. Little girl, don't try to scare me with Evil Lord. I, Zhong Xianshan, became famous 300 years ago and went into seclusion. I don't know much about the outside world, but this old man is confident that on this jade bamboo mountain, even if that Evil Lord comes, it will be the same. He won't be able to return. Zhong Xianshan appeared to be rather confident. When he said those words, it was natural that his tone was firm and powerful. Everyone who heard it was rather surprised. This guy sure was confident. He must have not seen the strength of the Evil Lord before, which was why he dared to speak so boldly. Evil Lord must be on his way here. Zhong Xianshan, let us go now and you can still live. Yunqi said. When Li Yun arrived, she had already told them about Li Zongjiu's return. As long as they held on, Li Zongjiu would definitely come to their rescue. Li Zongjiu's shielding of his own was really quite thorough. As long as it was Li Zhongjio's people, even if they were in the wrong, he would protect them till the end. As for the consequences, sorry, there was no such thing as consequences in the evil dominator's eyes. If he still wanted revenge, he could just continue killing. Once he killed them all, there would be no consequences. If he dares to come, I'll make sure he can't leave. Zhong Xianshan was full of confidence. He had spent 300 years perfecting the great formation he had set up at the foot of Emerald Bamboo Mountain. Link by link, it was now a rather perfect defensive system. It was impossible for anyone to break through it. Even if an expert of the same level as him came, it would take at least half a year to break through. However, as long as Zhong Xianshan was here, he would be able to fix the holes in the formation. Even if one found the weakness, one might not have the chance to break through it. Before he made a move, he would have already fixed the hole. One would not have the chance to break through the formation. Both of them looked at Li Yun. At this moment, Li Yun's expression was quite serious. This was because after her in-depth research, she realized that this great formation had already merged with this jade bamboo mountain. The might of such a powerful array formation. This was Li Yun's first time seeing it. All of a sudden, the entire sea of bamboos shook violently. Li Yun felt that her body was empty. All the pressure from before had disappeared in an instant. It seemed to be rushing towards something else. When she looked up again, she saw a huge green shadow descending from the sky. Boom! When the giant shadow landed, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. The entire green bamboo mountain also erupted. Countless bamboos exploded on the spot. Boom! The huge dragon claw slammed into the jade bamboo mountain, leaving a deep and huge claw mark. Zhong Xuanshan's figure formed by the bamboo leaves was instantly annihilated. It had disappeared. What? Li Yun felt that the pressure on her body had disappeared. It seemed to be because the great formation had been broken. What happened? Xiao Zhao asked. The formation seems to have been broken? Li Yun murmured. Chapter 1466. Above Jade Bamboo Mountain. In front of the sky martial vessel. With the dragon pearl in its mouth, the green stone dragon's strength skyrocketed. Li Zhongjio was already tired of playing with the dragon pearl. Since he had no use for it, he gave it back to the green stone dragon. Li Zhongjio had quite a number of dragon pearls in his hands. Naturally, they were different. A mere dragon pearl was nothing in his eyes. After playing with it for a while, Li Zhongjio realized that the green stone dragon's dragon pearl was too weak. I don't like this mountain. Smash it to smithereens for me. Li Zhongjio said calmly. The green stone dragon's eyes lit up. This kind of unscrupulous act of sabotage, with a powerful backer behind him, was simply too satisfying. At this moment, Zhong Xian Mountain on Jade Bamboo Mountain. Sensing the arrival of a giant dragon and the fact that it had damaged his formation with a single claw, he was naturally shocked. In front of a bamboo house, a figure in a green robe was standing. He quickly operated the formation plate in front of him, manipulating the illusory formation above Jade Bamboo Mountain. After nearly 300 years of perfecting it, it wasn't just for leeching. Moreover, he had previously said that no one would be able to break his formation. If his array formation was broken just as he finished speaking, wouldn't he lose a lot of face? Where did this ignorant junior come from? How dare you ruin my show? Zhong Xian Mountain was extremely angry. Then, under the operation of the array in front of him, the bamboo leaves on the huge green bamboo mountain fluttered. Each leaf also formed an extremely sharp aura, and in front of the green dragon, they also transformed into a giant dragon made of bamboo leaves. Its sharp claws flew. With a casual swipe of its claws, it could easily cut everything in front of it into pieces. Zhong Xian Mountain didn't know where the green stone dragon in front of him came from. It couldn't be a real giant dragon. However, with his strength, Zhong Xian Mountain was confident that he could deal with a real giant dragon. There was no need to worry at all. The appearance of the bamboo leaf dragon made Qing Shilong's eyes widen. Where did this fella in front of him come from? How dare he bring out such a thing to embarrass himself? Immediately he spat out a stream of dragon breath. Boom! The terrifying flames instantly burned the bamboo leaf dragon in front of him to nothing. In just one round, the strength of the Azure Stone Dragon was not something that a fake imitation could compare to. Li Yun and the other two saw this shocking scene from below. The huge bamboo leaf dragon formed by the formation of the green bamboo mountain was actually killed by this huge green dragon in an instant? That's a real dragon. Li Yun's eyes flashed, and she cried out in surprise. She couldn't believe her eyes. The blue stone dragon before his eyes was actually a member of the legendary Colossal Dragon clan. Giant dragon? Where did this thing come from? It was simply inconceivable to the three of them. Is that a flying boat? Xiao Zhao's eyes looked through the direction of the blue stone dragon and saw the Tianwu boat hovering in the sky behind the blue stone dragon. The Tianwu boat was still tall. It formed a small black dot in the sky. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it clearly. After all, everyone's attention was attracted by the blue stone dragon. It really is. When Li Yun saw the Tianwu boat, she knew that it was not simple. She used to be the pilot of the flying boat. Even now, she still retained this skill. But now, she didn't need to do it personally. Just this Eagle battleship alone had been updated to the 3rd generation. Moreover, it had spent a lot of money to train this new generation of pilots. Now, it could be said that the operation was getting easier and faster. Having piloted a battleship before, Li Yun knew that the Tianwu boat in front of her was not simple when she saw it. Just this aura alone was displayed here. It was dazzling. Its young master. Xiao Zhao was pleasantly surprised. Who else would appear at Green Bamboo Mountain at this time? Moreover, in the entire Xingyan dynasty, how many people could defeat Zhong Xianshan? How many people could find a giant dragon to help them? She believed that only one person could do it. That person was her young master, Evil Lord Li Zongjio. This person was full of legends from head to toe. The blue stone dragon easily tore the giant dragon formed by the bamboo leaves into pieces. Where did this fate come from? In front of the blue stone dragon's sharp claws, it naturally couldn't resist at all. After tearing it apart, the blue stone dragon stopped. After all, the order it received was to destroy the entire green bamboo mountain. Immediately, the blue stone dragon roared. It crashed into the green bamboo mountain. Boom! In an instant, a scene that could be said to be earth-shattering appeared. Li Yun and the other two were lifted up by a force in an instant. Their bodies involuntarily rose into the air and then landed on the Tianwu boat, which was close to 1,000 meters in the sky. Young master? When Xiao Zhao saw Li Zongjio, he shouted in surprise. Yes. Li Zongjio nodded. Yun Qi also bowed respectfully to Li Zongjio. Then, everyone obediently stood behind Li Zongjio. At this time, the blue stone dragon had also completely destroyed the green bamboo mountain. The bamboo forest, which stretched for tens of thousands of miles, was completely destroyed at this moment. Zhong Xianshan, who was on the green bamboo mountain, was almost driven crazy by the scene in front of him. Oh my God! Oh my God! The formation that I painstakingly set up for 300 years was destroyed by you. Zhong Xianshan roared to the sky. He was furious and unwilling to accept this result. However, the blue stone dragon in the sky didn't listen to his roar and continued to attack. Boom! The blue stone dragon destroyed the green bamboo mountain over and over again at an extremely fast speed. With a sweep of its tail, everything in its path was instantly destroyed. However, the blue stone dragon didn't attack Zhong Xianshan. As a giant dragon that had cultivated for hundreds of years, he knew very well that Li Zongjio wouldn't let the person in front of him go so easily. He would definitely torture the person in front of him. Therefore, the blue stone dragon's main focus was to destroy the green bamboo mountain. Enough! Stop it right now! Zhong Xianshan suddenly threw out a set of flying swords. At the same time, he threw out a huge cauldron. Boom! The huge cauldron and the flying swords rushed towards the blue stone dragon. When Li Zongjio saw the huge cauldron, a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. The revered green origin cauldron? When Li Zongjio saw the giant green cauldron, he reached out his hand without hesitation and grabbed the supreme green cauldron out of thin air. It really is. When Li Zongjio saw the revered green origin cauldron, he carefully inspected it and confirmed that it was indeed his cauldron. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had also obtained this cauldron. However, because the revered green origin cauldron wasn't very convenient to use, it was a very powerful existence. Li Zongjio also knew about this in his previous life. He himself couldn't exert the power of the revered green origin cauldron. Therefore, Li Zongjio directly hid the revered green origin cauldron. After all, in his previous life, Li Zongjio had obtained countless treasures. It was normal for him to miss out on some. Give me back my revered green origin cauldron. The cauldron in his hand had actually been snatched away by someone. Clearly, the latter was quite anxious. He immediately roared loudly and asked Li Zongjio to return the cauldron to him. However, the green stone dragon in front of him was also quite ferocious. It easily destroyed the flying swords formation. "Bring that old man to me," Li Zongjio said. The green stone dragon had also completely destroyed the green bamboo mountain. It had been completely reduced to ruins. You worked hard to build it for 300 years, but in the hands of the green stone dragon, it was completely destroyed in just 3 minutes. Hearing Li Zongjio's command, the blue stone dragon immediately flapped its wings and grabbed at Zhong Xianshan. Zhong Xianshan also let out a low roar, his eyes filled with madness. "You want to catch me? You think you can?" Zhong Xianshan was also a peak supreme. Although he hadn't reached the honorable realm, he was a peak 9th grade sovereign. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. As an alchemist, it wasn't difficult for him to use elixirs to increase his cultivation. Seeing the blue stone dragon coming at him, Zhong Xianshan also moved. Zhong Xianshan also moved his body. His elemental energy instantly turned into raging flames and blasted towards Qin Shilong. However, this kind of flame was equivalent to a pile of small flames in front of the blue stone dragon. Although the blue stone dragon's strength was average, it was still in existence of the absolute saint realm. With a wave of its claws, it smashed the small flames in front of it. Then, the blue stone dragon leaped and swayed. It instantly appeared in front of Zhong Xianshan. With a curl of its tail, it easily curled Zhong Xianshan up. At the same time, a terrifying amount of yuan energy was injected into Zhong Xianshan's body, sealing the latter's yuan energy. If the blue stone dragon wanted to, it could use its tail to strangle Zhong Xianshan to death. Zhong Xianshan was then tossed onto the deck of the Tianwu ship like a piece of wood by the blue stone dragon. The blue stone dragon was still circling around the Tianwu ship. Everyone was deeply shocked by the massive aura of the dragon. Was this the legendary giant dragon? Where did the young master get it from? What a huge one! Zhong Xianshan fell to the ground with a loud thud. His bones were almost falling apart. Li Zongjio looked at Zhong Xianshan, who was sitting on the ground, and couldn't help but sneer. "And here I thought you were tough. Seems like you don't have long to live and need these bamboos to prolong your life. That's why you don't dare to leave this mountain." With just a glance, Li Zongjio could see through Zhong Xianshan. Upon hearing Li Zongjio's words, Zhong Xianshan shuddered. Chapter 1467. Zhong Xianshan stared at Li Zongjio in disbelief. How did you know?" To Zhong Xianshan, this was something that was impossible. How could Li Zongjio know about it? Furthermore, he had seen through him with just a single glance. There's a longevity formation in the supreme green origin cauldron. Unfortunately, this longevity formation can only last you for 100 years at most. When that time comes, you'll die. This bamboo forest can provide you with vitality, but you can only last for 200 years at most. Li Zongjio shook his head. "Throw him back. A person who is about to die is not fit to teach in our Tianzong Academy." Li Zongjio then waved his hand. Taifai stepped forward. Zhong Xianshan, who had just woken up, immediately got to his feet and raised his hand. "Wait!" Zhong Xianshan was a shrewd old man. How could he not know that Li Zongjio must possess an unparalleled power? Otherwise, how could he have gotten his hands on this giant dragon? He could have made the giant dragon obey his orders. Not to mention his own array, his green cauldron, and the condition of his body. How could Li Zongjio see through him with just a glance? In fact, Zhong Xianshan had done many studies to see if there was anyone on this continent who could provide him with the path to longevity. He knew very well that his life was coming to an end. There was no way he could avoid it. In fact, Zhong Xianshan had gone through many hardships to reach the Eldritch Wilderness. But after going through it once, he realized that his alchemy skills were already top-notch. Apart from the dangers in the Eldritch Wilderness, there was nothing special about it. The only difference was that the meta beasts were a little stronger. He had stayed there for a period of time before returning to the Xingyan dynasty. After all, that place was too dangerous. In fact, if not for the bamboo forest formation on Emerald Bamboo Mountain and the Supreme Green Origin Cauldron, which had been set up to cultivate immortality, Zhong Xianshan would have lost its vitality. Perhaps he had already died 300 years ago. Therefore, Zhong Xianshan had no intention of leaving the mountain. In this world, there was indeed no one who had the ability to reconstruct life and regain the power of life. Therefore, Zhong Xianshan had thought that he might as well enjoy the rest of his life here. Who would have thought that it would be completely destroyed by Li Zongjio? As for the origin of the evil lord, Li Zongjio, naturally, the latter had already looked for it. Initially, he had heard of this kid. He thought that the latter was just lucky and obtained a little opportunity to improve his strength. However, such a person would disappear in a short time. After all, the tide of this continent couldn't be overturned so easily. Anyone who tried to stop the tide would be smashed into smithereens by the tide of the continent. As such, Zhong Xianshan did not pay much attention to Li Zongjio. Until now, Li Zongjio had appeared in front of him. Zhong Xianshan immediately connected all the information he had gathered about Li Zongjio in his mind. Terrifying. This was a terrifying existence. In fact, even now, Zhong Xianshan did not know the depth of Li Zongjio's strength. Previously, his Supreme Green Cauldron had been taken away by the other party. In the blink of an eye, Zhong Xianshan felt that his connection with the Supreme Green Cauldron had been severed. Who else in this world could do such a thing? Coupled with his current situation, he had been seen through by the other party almost instantly. Zhong Xianshan had never told anyone about the condition of his body. How did Li Zongjio know about it? It must be that the other party's skills were far above his own. That was why he could do such a thing. Evil Lord, as long as you can find a way to extend my life, I will be willing to teach in the medicine manner of the Sky Sect. It seemed like a deal had been struck. Right now, Zhong Xianshan did not have many years left to live. Once his Jade Bamboo Mountain array was destroyed, his lifespan would decrease even faster. Furthermore, he would basically be a cripple by the end of it. Even the slightest movement would deplete his life. Therefore, if Li Zongjio could help him extend his life, even if they wanted him to come out of seclusion and impart the art of alchemy, it would not be impossible. However, it was obvious that Zhong Xianshan thought too highly of him. He had also misjudged Li Zongjio's temper. How many days has this old man trapped you? Li Zongjio ignored Zhong Xuanshan's question. When Xiao Zhao heard that Zhong Xianshan had agreed to leave the mountain, his eyes lit up. He could not wait to pull Zhong Xianshan up. To be able to invite Zhong Xianshan was a dream come true. Besides Li Zongjio, Zhong Xuanshan's alchemy skills were the best in the world. If they could invite this person, the medicine manor of the Sky Sect Academy would surpass the Heavenly Dawn medicine manor. Naturally, it was Xiao Zhao's wish to bring the Sky Sect Academy to greater heights. However, when he heard Li Zongjio's question, Xiao Zhao immediately regained his senses. It seems to be 5 days. Although he did not know why Li Zongjio asked this question, he recalled that he had recalled 2 days ago. But thinking back, he was trapped for 2 days, and when Li Yan came, he was trapped for another 3 days. A total of 5 days. At first, we waited for 2 days. Yun Qi added. Then it's been 7 days. Li Zongjio calculated and said, "What are you trying to do?" Zhong Xianshan suddenly had a bad feeling. He could not figure out what Li Zongjio was trying to do, but this feeling made him feel a little uncomfortable. Since you've imprisoned my people for 7 days, I'll return the favor. I'll imprison you for 70 years. That's fair enough. Li Zongjio said. Sometimes, killing a person was not necessarily the greatest punishment for them. What they wanted was not being given to them. That was the greatest punishment, making it so that they would never be able to obtain it. Imprison him for 70 years? That would only leave him with 100 years of life. If he were to be imprisoned for 70 years, would he still be alive when he came out? If he were to be imprisoned, wouldn't that be worse than death? Li Zongjio ignored Zhong Xuanshan's doubtful gaze. With a casual wave of his hand, he tossed Zhong Xianshan into the Chaos Yuan Bell. No! As Zhong Xianshan was trapped within the primordial bell, he finally understood that Li Zongjio was not joking. Li Zongjio was really going to trap him inside for 70 years. This was worse than death. But now, Zhong Xianshan was trapped within the world of the Chaos Yuan Bell in the blink of an eye. When Zhong Xianshan arrived, he could feel the strong sealing power around him. He knew that there was no way he could get out. Furthermore, the power that was flowing around him was extremely frightening. This power was so strong that even a strand of hair could pierce through him. Therefore, he did not dare to move at all. Not only that, but Zhong Xianshan also saw many giant dragons not far away. They were all people who were trapped in the world of the Chaos Yuan Bell. Seeing such a scene, how could Zhong Xianshan remain calm? What the hell is this place? Zhong Xianshan had been cultivating for so many years, but he had never seen such a scene. He had been to so many places in the Shengwu continent, but he had never seen such a dangerous place. Other than that, there was nothing here. Instead, he had to be on tenterhooks. If he was not careful, he would lose his life. Let me out. Let me out. Zhong Xianshan was indeed thinking too highly of himself. Li Zongjio did not care about this old man at all. Who cared about his background? Didn't he know what true respect was? If he didn't even know respect, what could he do even if his cultivation was strong? Therefore, Li Zongjio decided to teach Zhong Xianshan a lesson. At the very least, Zhong Xianshan would learn to respect Li Zongjio for the next 30 years. Young master, this man is the #1 alchemist in the entire Shengwu continent apart from you. Xiao Zhao was afraid that Li Zongjio would kill him on impulse. After all, Li Zongjio might do something like that as well. Li Zongjio would not care too much about other people's business. I didn't kill him. I kept him alive. Li Zongjio said, "It's been hard on you guys. In the future, just bring people and smash their territory. I don't believe that they won't bow down." Xiao Zhao rolled his eyes at Li Zongjio's words. He couldn't use such a method for everything, could he? Now that Zhong Xianshan had been taken away by Li Zongjio, all his previous efforts had been in vain. However, Xiao Zhao thought that if Li Zongjio was willing to listen to his advice and get Zhong Xianshan out after his anger had subsided, everything would be fine. Young master, we have 8,000 students in the Tianzong Academy now. Dean Lan Yuyen has repeatedly instructed us to invite this alchemist over. It won't be too late to punish him after we have nurtured the best alchemists. Young master, why don't you stay behind and teach them personally? Xiao Zhao's eyes shifted to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio couldn't be bothered to care about these things. How could he let such a thing happen to him? I don't have that much time. Young master, why don't you trap Zhong Xianshan in the Tianzong Academy for 70 years and not let him go out? Let him atone for his crimes. How about that? Xiao Zhao hurriedly said. To Li Zongjio. It was just one less person to kill. However, since Xiao Zhao had spoken, if it weren't for Xiao Zhao presiding over the White Deer Mansion for so many years, who knew how desolate it would have become? All right, we'll talk about it when we get back. Locking him up for a while is enough for him. Chapter 1468. After Qing Shilong finished doing all this, he obediently returned to his seat and pulled the emperor towards Sacred Flame Imperial City. Boom! The Tianwu boat broke through the sky. The people on the boat were also feeling the strength of the Qing Shilong. Pulling such a large boat, it could fly so quickly. It really lived up to its name as a giant dragon. As for where Li Zongjio got this Qing Shilong from, they did not ask. They did not ask. After all, this was Li Zongjio's own matter. With this kind of strength, it was not strange for him to do this kind of thing. After Li Zongjio and the others left, More than 20 li away from Chuizhu Mountain, there were a few figures who were riding fast. On both sides of the horses were heavy luggage. It was clear that they had traveled without regard to wind and rain. Up ahead is the legendary Chuizhu Mountain. It is said that as long as one can bring a pill that can prolong one's life, there is a chance that one will be accepted as a disciple by the supreme expert on Chuizhu Mountain. This person's strength is definitely stronger than that Li Zhongjio. Is that true? Our Hua clan almost went bankrupt in order to obtain such a pill. The people following behind him also had grave expressions on their faces. With things as they were, there was no way out. The people in front of them were members of the Hua family. Previously, they were awe-inspiring and controlled the Green Dragon army for many years. Even the Xingyan dynasty's imperial family could not do anything to the Green Dragon army. The position of the commander of the Green Dragon army had always been decided internally by the Hua family. They were very arrogant. Later on, they offended Li Zhongjio. Under pressure from many sides, these people of the Hua family directly moved to the south to oversee the north. But after being deployed, these people of the Hua family were clearly targeted by the imperial family. This was an excellent opportunity. In just a short 2 years, the Hua family had basically broken away from the center of power of the Green Dragon army. As long as Emperor Xingyan found an excuse, he would be able to kill them all. Therefore, before that day really came, he had to find a new way. When they heard that there was a supreme being expert living in seclusion on Jade Bamboo Mountain 300 years ago, the members of the Hua family knew that their chance had come. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity so easily. Therefore, he did not hesitate to spend a lot of money. He had practically emptied out the entire Hua clan in order to gather such a large sum of money. In the end, he had managed to obtain such a pill from a desolate sect. It was said that it took a lot of effort to get in touch with this desolate age sect. Just this round trip alone cost a lot of money. If they couldn't settle this matter, they would be in big trouble. This was their only chance. Remember, the Hua family cannot lose. We have to let everyone know that the Hua family will definitely get back what they've lost. No one can take away anything that belongs to the Hua family. However, when the 6 of them arrived at Jade Bamboo Mountain, they saw something. There was no Jade Bamboo Mountain in front of them. There was one at discarded Bamboo Mountain. There were pieces of bamboo everywhere. Obviously, it had been destroyed by someone. When they saw this scene, they knew very well what had happened. It was obvious that this Emerald Bamboo Mountain had been wrecked by someone not long ago. The members of the Hua family repeatedly looked at the map in their hands. The map is right. This is the place. We didn't go the wrong way. How could this be? How could this be? The members of the Hua family never expected this. They had traveled thousands of miles and even found many ways to avoid the eyes of the White Deer Mansion. Perhaps Li Zhongjio had forgotten about the Hua family, but Xiao Zhao and the White Deer Mansion would never forget about the Hua family. They would definitely keep an eye on the Hua family's movements. In order to avoid them, they had disguised themselves and even rode a horse in a big circle. However, they did not expect that when they finally arrived at their destination, they were still a step too late. The huge Jade Bamboo Mountain had been completely destroyed. This was obviously not the work of an ordinary person. Could it be that the people of White Deer residence knew about it, so they destroyed the Green Bamboo Mountain in advance? A young member of the Hua family couldn't help but say in a trembling voice, "Impossible." An elder of the Hua family hurriedly said, "How could a mere White Deer Mansion have such an ability?" It must be known that the person on Jade Bamboo Mountain had already become a supreme being 300 years ago. Even the imperial family had to treat him with respect. It was impossible for a mere White Deer Mansion to deal with him. Even the people of the White Deer Mansion did not have such an ability. When it came to this point, it could be said to be extremely sonorous and advantageous. But other than the White Deer Mansion, who else has such an ability? After one person asked the question, everyone fell silent. Obviously, they couldn't find the answer to this matter at all. How could someone do something like this? Only the person from the White Deer Mansion could do it. If the person from the White Deer Mansion has really returned, then our Hua family really has no hope. In front of the huge ruins of Jade Bamboo Mountain, The 6 ambitious members of the Hua family were completely annihilated at this moment. They no longer had any confidence that this matter had anything to do with the White Deer Mansion. If even the White Deer Mansion couldn't do it, then no one in the entire Qingyan dynasty could do it. Could it be that the heavens really want to destroy our Hua family? Rumble. Dark clouds appeared in the sky. A heavy rain came without warning. It happened to be the 6 people in front of Jade Bamboo Mountain. They were all awakened by the rain. But everything seemed to become even more blurry in the heavy rain. Li Zongjio naturally didn't know. The Hua family had not given up on their evil intentions. They actually wanted to find someone to deal with him. If the Hua family found out, the person they wanted to ask for help had already been locked up by Li Zongjio. They would die of anger on the spot. However, this was also equivalent to solving a problem. At the very least, after the Hua family felt such despair, they no longer dared to resist. All the other families would fall into decline. This was a very normal thing. Li Zongjio and the others returned to the sacred flame imperial city. Then, they directly summoned Zhong Xianshan, who was trapped in the chaotic Yuan Bell. When Zhong Xianshan landed on the ground, his entire body was truly in a pitiful state. Xiao Zhao looked at Zhong Xianshan, who was covered in wounds. His heart skipped a beat. What in the world was going on? Where did the young master lock him up? If he had locked him up normally, he wouldn't have ended up in such a state, right? Spare me, spare me. Evil Lord, spare me. After Zhong Xianshan appeared, he tried to defend himself. Even though no one was beating him up, he was so flustered that it was as though he had been beaten up by a group of people. Then, when he saw Li Zongjio and the others sitting in front of him, he naturally started begging for mercy. There was no longer any trace of his arrogance from before. That arrogant attitude of his from before was gone as well. Everyone could see that even a top-notch figure like him could only kneel down and beg for mercy in front of Li Zongjio. Do you know your sins? Li Zongjio asked. I know I'm wrong, I know I'm wrong. I'll do anything you ask of me. As long as you don't let me enter that place, everything else is negotiable. Zhong Xianshan pleaded. Just based on that attitude of his, no one dared to believe what was happening. For such a huge reversal to happen right under their noses, one could say that this was the first time they had seen something like this. Even after living for so long, they had never seen something like this before. Both Yun Qi and Li Yun had truly witnessed the prowess of this man before them. But in the hands of Li Zongjio he had cowered in less than half a day. And with such a sincere attitude at that. Just what sort of an existence was this Chaos Yuan Bell in the hands of the young master? Even though these people were curious, they did not dare to head over to check it out. If even Zhong Xianshan was afraid of it, it must be an extremely horrifying place. Even though Zhong Xianshan was strong, he was nothing in the face of those dozens of dragons. After being beaten up badly, he would naturally behave himself once he came out. Right now, the Chaos Yuan Bell was under the control of Li Zongjio. Since Xiao Zhao wanted Zhong Xianshan to live, Li Zongjio could also guarantee that the latter would not die. But this physical pain was inevitable. My young master is magnanimous. If you admit your mistake, you will be punished with a position in the Sky Sect Academy. You will enjoy the treatment of a normal instructor. You will be teaching for 70 years and will not be allowed to leave the Sky Sect Academy. Also, if you do not do your best during the teaching process, the young master will lock you back at any time. Xiao Zhao added. Upon hearing that he was going to be taken back, Zhong Xianshan shuddered. He did not dare to say any more nonsense and nodded repeatedly. Evil Lord, don't worry. Everyone don't worry. Seeing that Zhong Xianshan had agreed, Xiao Zhao immediately smiled. Mr. Zhong, please rise. This was the speed of the change in attitude. This made Zhong Xianshan feel overwhelmed by the unexpected favor he had received. It was already praiseworthy that Li Zongjio did not kill him. But Xiao Zhao was still so kind to him. Who are these people? All right, since everything is settled, I will go and cultivate. Qing Shilong, you stay here and listen to Xiao Zhao's instructions. Li Zongjio said. Yes, master. Please rest assured. Even though Li Zongjio returned the Dragon Ball to Qing Shilong, Qin Shilong did not intend to leave. But Li Zhongjie was the one who defeated the evil dragon god. What kind of existence was this? It was hard for ordinary people to understand. It could be said that the evil dragon god had basically ruled Dragon Island except for the dragon prison. Chapter 1469. To be able to escape from death. How could the latter not be grateful to Xiao Zhao? If not for the fact that Xiao Zhao had taken a liking to his strength, he might have really been locked up by Li Zhongjie within the chaotic Yuan Bell, suffering a fate worse than death. Zhong Xianshan finally understood what it was like. It was hard to believe that such a strong person could exist. Even in the Eldritch Wilderness, such a person would definitely be a top existence. How did he end up here? Why would he be willing to stay in this city? What Zhong Xianshan did not know was that Li Zhongjie had already been in the Eldritch Wilderness for a long time. How many people in the Eldritch Wilderness did not know the name of the evil lord? The only thing to blame was that Zhong Xuanshan's information was too outdated. Li Zhongjie continued his seclusion. His research on the evil dragon's eye was still ongoing. The trials within the evil dragon's eye could be said to be pretty tough. Even though Li Zhongjie was fully focused each time, he was still crushed in an instant. However, as the number of times he was tortured increased, Li Zhongjie was not someone to be trifled with. In a situation where there was no pattern, he was able to find a breakthrough point. Although the final outcome was more or less the same. However, Li Zhongjie himself was also improving. In just half a month's time, Li Zhongjie had already successfully withstood 20,000 attacks in this trial. Before he was crushed by the 20,000th attack, he had successfully dodged a move. Li Zhongjie did not know what level of improvement this was. In order to understand more about the evil dragon's eye, Li Zhongjie's figure flashed and appeared in front of the evil dragon god. Within the boundless infernal realm, Li Zhongjie summoned the evil dragon god in front of him. In front of his hell, the evil dragon god was nothing more than a puppet that could come and go as he wished. The evil dragon god didn't have any freedom to speak of, and there was no chance for it to rise again. This was because Li Zhongjie wouldn't let it rise again. You, kill me if you can. I would rather die than be humiliated. When the evil dragon god saw Li Zhongjie, he clenched his teeth in hatred. In this boundless hell, he was constantly reincarnated. He couldn't do anything else. He was like a cripple. He was like a puppet toy placed on a fixed track. He was completely useless. The only thing he could maintain was a clear mind. Li Zhongjie had purposely given it to him. Let him clearly experience his own boundless hell, let him feel it properly, and let him have a good time. You talk too much. Li Zhongjie didn't have that much time to interrogate the evil dragon god. He directly reached out and snatched the memories hidden in the evil dragon god's mind. The evil dragon god's body stiffened in place. Li Zhongjie opened the evil dragon god's memories in front of him. It was as if a light screen was spread out in front of him, and everything he saw was displayed on it. Found it. Li Zhongjie found the part related to the evil dragon eye and read it. He learned from the evil dragon god's memories. The evil dragon god in front of him was only able to withstand about 8,000 attacks. As for the evil dragon eye, there wasn't any useful information. However, he had some understanding of the evil dragon eye's origin. This brat had suddenly found it in an unknown corner of Dragon Island. According to his estimations, there must be other parts of the heavenly dragon here. However, the evil dragon god had already spent a lot of energy to find this evil dragon eye. At the same time, if he wanted to explore other places, he already felt like he would be devoured. Moreover, this place was also very close to the dragon race's ancestral dragon graveyard. This was also why the evil dragon god was so anxious to get rid of the dragon penitentiary and obtain the power within the ancestral dragon eye. Because the evil dragon god knew that there must be something even more powerful in the ancestral dragon graveyard. As long as he could obtain the power within, he would be able to become the king of all races. Does this fool have a brain? If your ancestor could become the king of all races, how could he be reduced to being buried on Dragon Island? Li Zhongjie was extremely disdainful. In his opinion, the person in front of him had no brain at all. What your ancestor couldn't do when he was alive, how could you do it after he died? You're just finding an excuse for your greed. This kind of person was truly shameless. But from the looks of it, there should be some treasures on Dragon Island. Speaking of treasures, that Long Ji still owes me something. Li Zongjio wouldn't forget about these things. After all, they weren't cheap. Now that Li Zongjio had reached the level where he could withstand 20,000 attacks, he needed to tidy up a little. If he blindly carried on stubbornly, it might backfire. Only by having a balance between tension and relaxation could he better improve his strength. Although I've been killed so many times, it's not like I didn't gain anything. At least my current grasping ability is 3 times stronger than before. Li Zongjio was also secretly surprised. If it was the original owner of the evil dragon eye, how powerful would he be? It was simply unimaginable. After he died, just the ability of one eye was enough to kill Li Zongjio countless times. At his peak, Sky Dragon? Upper Realm? Li Zongjio raised his head and looked at the sky. He had also tried to fly out of the clouds, but he had never succeeded. After ascending to a certain height, he would be restricted by a force, and it would be very difficult for him to break through. If he wasn't careful, he would be strangled by the power of heaven and earth. Even after reaching the absolute Saint Realm, he still couldn't reach it. But if there was a higher-level world, Li Zongjio wouldn't have the slightest doubt. In fact, he even thought that this was something to be expected. Otherwise, how could he explain it? Sacred Martial Realm's ape race powerhouse. With just a light palm, the other party could easily destroy everything on the Sacred Martial Continent. This was such a terrifying strength. Fortunately, Li Zongjio saw this scene. So now, Li Zongjio was also eager to improve his strength. He had read the 9 Lineages Heavenly Book in the Sacred Martial Realm. Li Zongjio also knew about it. The power of the 9 Lineages Heavenly Book could be stacked. When you snatched the Heavenly Book of another race, you could use it to strengthen yourself. The ape race must have snatched the Heavenly Book of the fallen race. The current ape race might have at least 2 Heavenly Books. If they pursued power, sooner or later, they would kill their way to the Sacred Martial Realm and cause trouble for the human race. With the current strength of the human race, Heavenly Saint Kuan Peng couldn't even withstand a single palm attack. There was really no chance to speak of. Li Zongjio didn't want to be the guardian of the human race. As long as his family wasn't threatened, it would be fine. He would rather stay in such a place forever. But trouble would come knocking on his door sooner or later. Li Zongjio was very clear about this. Only when he grasped absolute strength would the trouble disappear automatically. This was without a doubt. When you were strong enough to not be afraid of any trouble, it was equivalent to no trouble. Thinking back to the ape race's hand, Li Zongjio's eyes became more determined. Inside the White Deer Mansion, Long Ji was chatting with Xiao Zhao. But while they were chatting on the way, Instructor Ling Yen from the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor had also arrived. When he saw that there was actually an additional graceful woman in the White Deer residence, whose every frown and smile was filled with a mature and alluring aura, the expression in his eyes clearly changed. Xiao Zhao, who is this? Ling Yen used to be Li Zongjio's instructor, even though it was only in name. But Ling Yen always used this name to come to the White Deer Mansion. Most of the time, he came to discuss some teaching plans or to carry out some joint projects with the Heavenly Sect Academy. In short, his purpose was self-evident. It was to make the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor more competitive. Recently, the Heavenly Sect Academy suddenly had an expert in the field of elixir pills. Even their mansion master couldn't help but visit the Heavenly Sect Academy. Ling Yen knew that the person the Heavenly Sect Academy invited this time was not simple. So Ling Yen wanted to investigate the situation and see if he could invite this person to give a lecture at the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. At least, he still needed to maintain his reputation. Everyone wanted to promote the development of the education field. In addition, with this layer of relationship, Ling Yen was confident that the White Deer Mansion would not be so stingy. But when he saw Long Ji, Ling Yen couldn't help but focus all his attention on Long Ji. This is Instructor Long Ji, the tactical combat instructor that the Heavenly Sect Academy just hired. Xiao Zhao said. Tactical combat instructor? Ling Yan couldn't help but look at the beautiful Long Ji in front of him. With Long Ji's posture, not to mention tactical combat, it would be a problem if she could even wield a weapon. But this weapon was very powerful. Ling Yan felt a little ashamed. But to say that this Long Ji could become a combat instructor, Ling Yan really didn't believe it. And the reason why Xiao Zhao knew Long Ji's power, it was because of Qing Shilong's performance. Xiao Zhao had seen Qing Shilong's strength. But in front of Long Ji, Qing Shilong was completely like a puppy. He didn't have any temper at all. He couldn't even lift his head in front of Long Ji. "Miss, do you want to exchange a few moves with me to test my strength?" Long Ji said with a trace of provocation in the corner of her eyes. Chapter 1470. Long Ji was able to come to the Sacred Flame Imperial City this time. She had to persuade the second warden to temporarily put down the plan to kill Li Zongjio. After all, Li Zongjio was not someone to be trifled with. Moreover, Li Zongjio had made a special contribution to the dragon tribe. If she wanted to make up for her mistake, she would not have to kill Li Zongjio in such a hurry. Even if she mobilized the entire Dragon Island, she might not be able to hurt Li Zongjio at all. Moreover, the current situation of Dragon Island was quite serious. If she had to divide her forces to deal with Li Zongjio, she would be asking for trouble in the Draconic Penitentiary. The second warden was not stupid. However, if he did not say it at that time, he would lose all his prestige as the second warden. Therefore, he still had to say it. However, if he really wanted to fight with Li Zongjio, he naturally had no chance of winning. Now, Long Ji understood. Therefore, she beat him at his own game. She suggested to appease Li Zongjio for the time being. When someone was strong enough to kill Li Zongjio, it would not be too late to punish him. Long Ji did this because she had no choice. At least this way, she could ensure that the people in the Draconic Penitentiary would not be so impulsive for the time being. "I'm a gentleman. I don't know how to fight and kill," Ling Yan said proudly. Then she flipped her hair. However, Long Ji did not move an inch. Moreover, Long Ji's hair was also red like Ling Yan's. Moreover, Long Ji's hair color was even more vibrant. Xiao Zhao sighed helplessly as she watched the fight between the two of them. Clearly, this kind of thing happened frequently and it wasn't strange at all. After all, his young master's charm was too great. After hearing that Li Zongjio had returned, even Miss Song Jiyu had been visiting for several days. If this was before, Xiao Zhao would not believe it at all. He would even think that the Song Jiyu in front of him was a fake. She actually came to visit in person and several times in a row. How could such a situation occur? Her previous mistress was very ambitious. And now, he had become the person with the greatest authority in the Song family. Apart from the patriarch, Song Jiyu's subordinates were the strongest. It was because of one reason. He was working with White Deer Mansion. Xiao Zhao was naturally not a heartless person. What's more, her ability was also because of the young Mrs. many times of nurturing, which allowed her, Xiao Zhao, to have today's ability. Of course, they would do more for their old customers. As long as there was a reasonable project, they would cooperate. Song Jiyu had a small share, while the White Deer Mansion had a large share. Of course, it was not that she was unreasonable, but the situation was like this. Ordinary people would have to spend a lot of money to build a relationship with the White Deer Mansion. The market was like this now. There was no personal relationship to speak of. Since Xiao Zhao was working for Li Zongjio now, he naturally had to put all his focus on the White Deer Mansion. I won't disturb you. Where do I live? Not only did Long Ji become the tactical combat instructor of Tianzong Academy, but she also became a guest elder of the White Deer Mansion. Since she was a guest elder, she naturally lived in the White Deer Mansion. Nangong Wuji's identity was also a guest elder. After all, Li Zongjio did not stay in the White Deer Mansion for long periods of time. Naturally, he needed some top experts to become guest elders. Of course, it wasn't an easy task to join the White Deer residences and become a guest elder. It wasn't as if you could enter just because you had sufficient strength. You still had to go through layers of tests. After all, it was not an exaggeration to call the White Deer Mansion the #1 mansion in the world. For example, the Mirror Emperor Master was not recruited by the White Deer Mansion to become a guest elder. It could be seen that the White Deer Mansion attached great importance to the guest elder test. What, he is actually a guest elder? Ling Yan was also quite surprised when he saw this. This meant that she had reached the sky in one step. He did not expect this woman to be so lucky. Could it be that she had some unspeakable secret with Li Zongjio? Ling Yan's eyes lit up. Since Li Zongjio could have some unspeakable secret with others, then, ahem. Xiao Zhao saw that Ling Yan seemed to have sunk into endless reverie and could not help but cough twice. Was he going to forget himself at this time? Immediately, Ling Yan woke up and realized that he seemed to have lost his composure. Damn it, this woman was actually so arrogant and so strong. Ling Yan was also quite jealous. What's so lively about? Li Zongjio walked in from outside and saw the three women here. Long Ji was also here. His gaze first fell on Long Ji. You're here. If you didn't come, I would have gone there personally. Li Zongjio said lightly. When Li Zongjio went to find you personally, then this matter would be troublesome. It would not be so easy to solve it casually. A mere Dragon King's treasure house was not enough to deal with Li Zongjio. But now that the other party had come personally, it was fine. At least she was tactful. Long Ji did not dare to forget about Evil Lord's matter. This time, I was specially ordered by the Great Master to bring this thing and present it to Evil Lord. Long Ji did not dare to be too casual in front of Li Zongjio now. She knew Li Zongjio's true strength. Someone who could directly kill the evil dragon god. Such a ruthless person was definitely not to be trifled with. If she did, the consequences would be unimaginable. Long Ji presented an extremely exquisite ring to Li Zongjio. This ring contained everything from the Fire Dragon tribe's patriarch's treasure house. Not a single thing was missing. Since she had already taken out so many things, then there was no need to do any other unnecessary tricks. Otherwise, after being exposed, wouldn't it be even more awkward? The relationship between the Dragon Island and Li Zongjio would become even more tense. Li Zongjio took the ring. After scanning it with his mental power, he threw the ring to Xiao Zhao. Use the things inside as you see fit. Li Zongjio handed over most of the stolen storage rings to Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao was also used to it. He thought that Long Ji brought some treasures to build a relationship with him. It was a very normal thing. However, when Xiao Zhao's spiritual power was injected into the storage ring, it didn't react at all. Immediately, he was shocked by the contents of the storage ring. This, Xiao Zhao couldn't believe his eyes. Then he used his mental power to scan it again. There were no less than 5 divine weapons inside. Any one of these items was enough to shake the heavens and earth. It was unbelievable. Such precious things. Divine weapons were also a kind of rating for weapons. But now, there were basically no divine weapons. Because they couldn't be forged. Therefore, many things could only be passed down from generation to generation. However, with the passage of time, many divine artifacts had lost their original sharpness. The unparalleled sword was a divine weapon. But to truly display the power of a divine weapon, one needed to master the power of the unparalleled sword. Other people simply couldn't display the power of the unparalleled sword. Young master, these things are too. Xiao Zhao wanted to say something, but Li Zongjio waved his hand. You can do as you see fit. Li Zongjio would be a little interested in these things in the past. But now, he basically had no interest in them. It was useless even if he wanted them. He had enough weapons. At most, he would use them to arm his family. In this aspect, he believed that Xiao Zhao would take care of it. After all, the original intention of establishing the White Deer Mansion was to protect the Li family. As the sharpest spear of the Li family outside, it was enough to eliminate any danger. But the most surprised person was Long Ji. She didn't take the wrong ring just now. It contained the lifetime collection of the Fire Dragon tribe's chief. Even on this Dragon Island, people would scramble for this ring like a flock of ducks. They couldn't wait to fight for it. However, Li Zongjio only took a glance at it before tossing it to his maid. In Long Ji's opinion, Xiao Zhao was just Li Zongjio's maid. It was just that this maid was put in an important position. Wasn't he too careless? Or could it be that Li Zongjio didn't care about the items of the Fire Dragon tribe's patriarch? Otherwise, the treasures in this ring were enough for anyone to become a peak supreme being. The wealth and treasures in this ring were enough to last a lifetime. It was just that terrifying. Li Zongjio didn't care at all and directly threw the ring to Xiao Zhao. Even if Xiao Zhao was a little selfish and hid some of it, it would be enough for her to make a meteoric rise. Could it be that this girl's relationship with Evil Lord wasn't very simple? She must be someone he trusted very much to be put in such an important position. Fortunately, he didn't offend Xiao Zhao before he came. Long Ji was very good at judging people. At first glance, she could tell that Xiao Zhao's aura wasn't simple. After a simple conversation, she realized that Xiao Zhao's temperament was extraordinary, so she also treated her as an equal. "Why aren't you leaving?" Li Zongjio looked at Long Ji in front of him. The latter didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. "Miss Long Ji has just become a guest of our White Deer Mansion and is willing to take on the role of Sky Sect Academy's tactical combat instructor," Xiao Zhao quickly said. "In that case, tactical combat suits you quite well." Li Zongjio nodded. As if he approved of Long Ji, Li Zongjio then looked at Ling Yan. "Why are you here too?" Chapter 1471. Ling Yan wasn't happy to hear this. "What do you mean by being here too? As if I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I used to be your class teacher." Of course, if this boast was made public, it was likely that many people wouldn't believe it. They would even think that Ling Yan had a problem in his head and was suffering from some kind of delusional disorder. However, if one were to carefully trace back Li Zongjio's growth process, they would discover that there was indeed such a small period of time in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Of course, it was hard to explain this matter clearly. It wouldn't do to treat it as a big deal. Fortunately, Li Zongjio had a good relationship with Ling Yan. After all, Ling Yan was easy to get along with. At least back then, he had stood up for Li Zongjio and Kuan Erisher. "I heard that a great god has come to your Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Isn't it just nice for the two of you to come to our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to give a lecture and promote the cultural exchange between our two great academies?" Ling Yan immediately said to Li Zongjio. As long as Li Zongjio agreed, everything would be easy to handle. Since there was such a good opportunity to block Li Zongjio, Ling Yan naturally wouldn't let it go. "I don't think so. That guy is now in a state of being punished." Li Zongjio knew that Ling Yan must be talking about Zhong Xianshan. Who would have thought that this Zhong Xianshan would have such a great reputation? It had only been a short while since he had been captured and there were already people who wanted to snatch him away. However, since they had already said that Zhong Xianshan would be leaving the Sky Sect Academy for the next 70 years, unless Heavenly Star Academy went bankrupt, he couldn't leave. Rules were rules. If it was other people's rules, Li Zongjio could break them if he wanted to. However, if it was Li Zongjio who set the rules, it wouldn't be so easy to break them. "You're too disloyal. You're just going to give a lecture and make a guest appearance. What's the big deal? Our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor won't snatch your people." Ling Yan immediately said excitedly. He was actually rejected by Li Zongjio. However, he suddenly remembered that Li Zongjio had said that the other party could not leave the Tianzong Academy. "How about this? I'll bring the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's disciples to your Sky Sect Academy to listen to your lessons." "Hee, it's settled then. I'll arrange it right away." Ling Yan also knew that Li Zongjio was very principled, and he wouldn't change what he said, no matter if it was good or bad. He didn't give Li Zongjio and the others a chance to go back on their words. He jogged all the way out. It was as if he was still pleased with the success of his scheme. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If such an expert were to give a lecture, how could the scale of the lecture be small? Fortunately, he was quick-witted. "Why do I have a strange feeling?" Li Zongjio frowned. Although he didn't really manage things, what did Ling Yan say just now? He wanted to bring the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's disciples directly to the Tianzong Academy to listen to his lessons? "Young master, don't worry. This matter will be handled by Xiao Zhao," Xiao Zhao said. Looking at Li Zongjio, he seemed to be at a loss, but in fact, the Tianzong Academy was going to make a fortune. They were afraid that the other party would hide their disciples and not bring out some good disciples. The Tianzong Academy would definitely take advantage of this opportunity to thoroughly display their strength. They would show it in front of these students. Then these disciples would know how to choose in the future. They didn't expect that the signboard of Zhongxian Mountain would be so useful here. It was a good little trick. Of course, I'll leave it to you. I'll go out for a walk. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said, "These trivial matters." He naturally wouldn't waste time to deal with them. Li Zongjio also needed to spend more time on his own cultivation. He didn't need to worry about these things. In the secular world, there were many people who had been tied down by these things because they coveted power. However, Li Zongjio didn't have such a tie at all. After all, Li Zongjio didn't care about things like power at all. That was why he had such a free and easy cultivation realm. It wasn't easy for him to cultivate until now. After all, it was a new life. Not everyone could understand the choice of things. In fact, sometimes, this cultivation talent didn't have much to do with it. It just depended on whether one could focus. If one could focus, then it was equivalent to success. Many disciples of big families were quite talented, but in the process of cultivation, they were thinking about fighting for power all day long. Although they seemed to be focused on cultivation, no one knew what kind of things were going on in the dark. Therefore, it led to the slow progress of their cultivation, and it was easy for them to go berserk. Li Zongjio had never experienced these things, so there was nothing much to say. After strolling and relaxing in the sacred flame royal city, Li Zongjio went to a restaurant and ordered a delicious boiled fish. The chefs in the city were indeed unique in terms of their culinary skills. However, he didn't know that there was a place called the God of Cooking Department among the disciples of the Sky Sect Academy. He didn't know if the dishes made by this department were delicious. After eating a big meal, he wandered aimlessly on the streets. The current sacred flame royal city was stable and prosperous. There wasn't a single beggar on the streets and alleys. After all, the White Deer Mansion and headquarters were here. How could they let this place be shabby? In comparison, the current sacred flame royal city was even more famous than Heaven and Earth Sacred City. After all, this was the former imperial capital, and now the #1 mansion in the world was here. The famous 4 great academies were also established here. Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Imperial Martial Pavilion, Azure Sea Academy, Sky Sect Academy, Purple Pill Academy, and 4 Seas Medicine Manor had already moved away. After all, the competition in this place was too strong and they couldn't compete with those big families. They had obediently moved to Heaven and Earth Sacred City. At least in Heaven and Earth Sacred City, these 2 academies were more or less competitive. There was a wishing river in the sacred flame royal city. Almost every night, there would be countless people releasing wishing lanterns there. However, it was just a scam by a businessman. As soon as you released your wishing lantern, someone downstream would pick it up. It was mainly for the sake of auspiciousness. Therefore, this wishing river itself was quite famous. Today, there were still many people releasing their own wishing lanterns in front of the wishing river. Li Zongjio happened to be walking by the river. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the crowd. Then there was a splash. A woman who was squatting by the river suddenly had her head bitten off by a black shadow that flew out from the river. Only her body was left squatting on the ground. Blood spurted out from her neck like a fountain. It almost splashed 3 meters high. Then, the headless corpse slowly fell into the river. Immediately, the river splashed a few more times. Fresh blood gushed out from the ground. When they saw such a bloody scene, how could the surrounding ordinary people endure it? Such a shocking scene immediately caused the crowd to be in chaos. Screams could not be heard. The frightened crowd kept retreating. However, there were more people. Some people, in their panic, missed a step and were directly pushed from the bridge into the river. Now, some kind of monster had appeared in the river. It actually came specially. If they fell in, they would definitely die. A few people directly fell into the river. Then, they were quickly drowned by the river. They didn't even have the chance to struggle. It was as if they were directly dragged into the water by something terrifying. Li Zongjio saw that under the river, There seemed to be something moving at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, they looked extremely strange. Within a 1-meter radius of them, it was pitch black and they couldn't see anything clearly. It was time to swallow up the few rays of light in the water. Abyss Clan. After seeing this, Li Zongjio was surprised. The abyssal race had actually found this place. Shouldn't the abyssal race appear in the sea? However, as long as there was water, the abyssal race would be able to reach it. The city guards are here. Li Zongjio didn't make a move. Just now, many people died in an instant. If Li Zongjio wanted to make a move, he could naturally save them. However, he didn't have to do it. Everyone's life and death were predestined. Li Zongjio had the ability to change the life and death of others. However, it didn't mean that he had to do it all the time. In this way, it was equivalent to directly grafting the cause and effect of others' life and death onto himself. Suddenly, Li Zongjio had such an epiphany in his heart. When this epiphany appeared, Li Zongjio was immediately surprised. Strange, why would I have such a thought? Li Zongjio didn't know where this thought came from. It seemed to be actively generated in his mind. Everyone, leave the river. There was no lack of experts in the city guards. Before, Li Zongjio also cultivated Wang Ding and the others. According to the current situation, Wang Ding was now the commander of the city guards. Wang Ding. In the crowd, Li Zongjio also saw Wang Ding, who was dressed in martial attire, rushing towards him. There was a kind of expert behind him. He seemed to have been prepared for the situation that had just unfolded. He directly ordered his men to line up on the shore. Then he used a kind of extremely fast nail gun with a rope hanging on it. Boom! They exploded into the river. Whoosh! Chapter 1472. The flying spears immediately broke through the water and plunged downwards rapidly. However, these spears were made of steel and could not cause any damage to the Abyssal Clan below. There were also some terrifying Abyssal Clan members who used their sharp claws to pierce the surface of the water directly towards the people on the shore. Many soldiers were directly penetrated by the sharp spikes of the Abyssal Clan members. Ah, save me, save me. Seeing this, Wang Ding leaped up and slashed at the spikes released by the Abyssal Clan members. Boom! However, Wang Ding could not cut off the strange spikes of the Abyssal Clan members even though he was at the Yuan Emperor realm. Suddenly, a strong rebounding force hit him. Boom! Wang Ding was knocked back to the shore. The Abyssal Clan members who were pierced by the spikes were directly brought into the river and turned into a pool of blood in just a moment. What? Damn monster, give me back my brother! Wang Ding said as he prepared to continue his attack. However, this time, the abyssal monsters in the river had already set their sights on Wang Ding. After all, among so many experts present, Wang Ding was the only one who felt a trace of pressure. Swoosh! A mysterious spike quickly extended out, looking like an elongated bone. It rushed towards Wang Ding at an extremely fast speed. Protect the commander! The bodyguard beside Wang Ding hurriedly shielded him behind him. This kind of dedication in times of need had been honed long ago and there was no need for additional commands. However, just as the black bone spike was about to approach, a surging sword aura suddenly swept over from afar. At the same time, there was an arrow with a little blue light on it. Swoosh! Ding! The arrow hit the black bone spike instantly. Immediately, the blue light on the arrow turned into a terrifying icy power. It poured out crazily and completely froze the black bone spur in front of him. At the same time, a sword aura descended. It instantly cut off the black bone spike. Boom! The power of the sword aura was not strong and was only at the Yuan Emperor realm. However, it could cause a better effect than Wang Ding's previous attack. After all, Wang Ding's previous attack did not have any effect. Frozen river surface. A handsome young man with a sharp sword in his hand appeared in the sky. Following the young man's command, he looked at the bridge not far away. She was tall and slender, and she held an azure bow in her hand. Her eyes were sharp. He knocked an arrow on his bow and shot it toward the river without hesitation. Boom! Immediately, an icy blue power froze the surface of the river into extremely thick ice. The surface of the river was instantly frozen. It seemed that the danger was temporarily under control. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Ding's reaction wasn't slow either. He immediately commanded the city guards to clear out the remaining citizens. If they continued to stay here, they would definitely be in danger. Keep your eyes on the river. Use the mountain-piercing crossbows. Wang Ding ordered. After arranging a series of matters, he went to meet the two young heroes who had just made a move. Where did you two come from? Tell me your names. As the commander of the city guards, Wang Ding had an official position. Naturally, he wouldn't be so polite to ordinary people. Moreover, the two young men in front of him looked like they were still wet behind the ears. It was normal for them to have some tricks up their sleeves. However, he couldn't let these young men think that they were invincible. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Azure Ocean Academy, Ji Fu. Azure Ocean Academy, Qin Feng. Greetings, sir. The two of them were polite and not arrogant. However, this was only on the surface. Although they said that they were greeting, their actions were very honest. They didn't make any movements. They even purposely showed off in front of Wang Ding, as if they wanted to say that they helped him settle this matter. So it's the two of you. In Wang Ding's eyes, there was a look of realization. He thought that they were some young men who weren't afraid of death, who knew that they were here to poke their nose into other people's business. They were the new top 10 outstanding youths in the Sacred Flame Royal City. Just in the Azure Ocean Academy alone, there were 6 of them. These 6 people had gone through various competitions and were selected through various rounds of selection. They possessed powerful strength. Therefore, they were quite famous in the Sacred Flame Royal City. They could be said to be outstanding existences. Even the overall quality was much better than the batch a few years ago. Although Li Zongjiu had obtained the title of the #1 alchemist because of his alchemy skills, he didn't obtain the ranking of the most influential people in the Sacred Flame Royal City. This was because he didn't participate in it at all. He had never paid attention to these things. Sir, these abyssal monsters aren't something that you can deal with. Jin, leave this place to the Azure Ocean Academy. Although Chen Feng's words sounded very courteous and he was willing to contribute, there was a sense of ordering Wang Ding. It was as if he was saying that this place wasn't something that he could deal with. Leaving quickly was the smart choice. When Qin Feng spoke, Ji Fu didn't say anything. However, there was a slight coldness in her eyes. She didn't continue to look at Wang Ding. Instead, she focused her attention on the river below. It was as if she didn't want to waste too much time on Wang Ding. Impudent. Is the Azure Ocean Academy trying to rebel? This is the matter of the city guards. It has nothing to do with you. If you don't leave quickly, I'll throw you into the dungeon. One of Wang Ding's adjutants rushed out and said. The other party obviously didn't put Wang Ding in their eyes. If the latter was allowed to be arrogant, how could the city guards have any status in the future? They were actually disregarded by this group of stinky brats. This was an extremely arrogant and excessive behavior. They had to put an end to such a thing. This matter shouldn't have happened to these students. Even if the city guards were all dead, they couldn't have allowed these people to come. There were laws in the country. In the Sacred Flame Royal City, there were naturally rules that belonged to the Sacred Flame Royal City. If you were strong, you could casually intervene in the affairs of the government. If this wasn't rebellion, what was it? Fortunately, these people were all students. Otherwise, they would definitely end up in a miserable state. Wang Ding was the first to bring people to raid these people's homes. The ice is about to break. Ji Fu, who was wearing a blue armor, said. The set of equipment on her body was also a treasure of the Azure Ocean Academy. They had spent a lot of money to obtain it. It was extremely powerful. Just now, it was the power of the black ice bow that froze the other party. The layer of ice on the surface of the river was also because of the black ice bow. But now, it obviously couldn't hold on for too long. The layer of ice below was rapidly breaking apart. Rumble. Suddenly, a turbulent force broke through the ice. Li Zongjiu looked over. It seemed that a powerful character had appeared among these abyssal monsters. Wang Ding's subordinates hurriedly aimed the mountain-piercing crossbows in their hands at the same point below and directly shot forward. Immediately, the whooshing sound of the arrows breaking through the air made one's scalp numb. The feeling of the sharp arrows cutting through space naturally made everyone's heart tremble. They felt as if they were about to be split in half. Dozens of mountain-piercing crossbows were shot from both sides of the river to the bottom. However, there was not the slightest movement from below. Even Chen Feng's eyes showed a trace of doubt. "Be careful." Ji Fu's perception was slightly stronger. Suddenly, she heard a trace of penetrating force coming from the river. Bush, bush, bush. Just as she finished her sentence, dozens of mountain-piercing crossbows returned to where they came from and pierced through the bodies of the archers who were operating the crossbows. Some of them dodged slightly, but the crossbow bolts directly hit their heads. Instantly, their heads exploded. This scene was extremely bloody. There were originally some commoners who were watching the show, but when they saw this scene, they all screamed and quickly ran away. This scene was too terrifying. Ever since the era of peace and prosperity, they had never seen such a thrilling scene. "Throw the black fire grenades in." Wang Ding was furious when he saw this. So many of his subordinates were killed in an instant. Such a situation had never happened before. He couldn't let these meta-beasts continue to be arrogant. He had to end this quickly. Immediately, the city guards threw the black fire grenades in their hands. Bush, bush, bush. The dull black fire grenades fell into the river and sank rapidly. However, these black fire grenades didn't seem to have the effect that they were supposed to have. Just like a stone, it was easily swallowed up by the river in front of him. It disappeared without a trace, and there was not the slightest movement. "Your black fire grenades have all been eaten. This kind of creature eats everything. Ordinary moves can't hurt them." Chen Feng said. "What did you say? Why do you know so much about these things?" Wang Ding was sharp enough to notice that something was wrong. He had just received news that such a situation might happen. Just as he was preparing, such a thing happened. He had prepared something to attack the underwater meta-beasts. But how did Chen Feng and the others know about it? From the looks of it, they seemed to have received some information long ago. It's a serious crime to not report what you know. Wang Ding's eyes instantly turned fierce. "Leader Wang, the dean asked us to help you." Just as Wang Ding was about to interrogate these people, he saw 3 figures flying over on their swords from afar. A man and 2 women. Leading them was a woman wearing white boots and a snow-white robe. Chapter 1473. Wang Ding turned around and saw 3 people approaching. He was familiar with these people. The 3 people in front of him were disciples of Tianzong Academy. The leading woman in white was called Xia Shui. She was currently the most talented disciple in Tianzong Academy. Whether it was alchemy or Yunli, she was a top-notch existence. Most importantly, she had a high level of comprehension, although she started a little late. However, there were simply too many elixirs in Tianzong Academy. Xia Shui's cultivation had been forcibly raised. After all, Tianzong Academy also needed someone who could support the scene. Although Tianzong Academy had only been established for less than 2 years. Fortunately, Xia Shui was pushed to become one of the top 10 influential youths. Her performance was outstanding. As a result, 3 of the top 10 influential youths in the city had come. As for the junior brothers and sisters behind Xia Shui, they were responsible for supporting the scene. Seeing that the other party was Chen Feng and Ji Fu, Xia Shui's eyes also had a trace of seriousness. After all, the other party's strength was not simple. The 2 academies were also competing with each other. Wang Ding was one of Li Zongjiu's people. Tianzong Academy was established under Li Zongjiu's name, so Wang Ding also had the title of Instructor Wu in Tianzong Academy. Whenever a new student joined, they would first have to undergo a hellish military training. It was a good opportunity to dampen the spirit of these geniuses. This tradition was also established by Tianzong Academy's dean, Lan Yin. Such a unique way of thinking, such a mysterious idea, only Lan Yuyan could think of and implement it. Through this method, it could help the students adapt to the life in the academy faster. At the same time, it would also be more strict in terms of discipline. If the discipline was not strict, It would naturally be useless if you did not obey the discipline, even if you were a genius. If you wanted to show off your character, there would naturally be a lot of time for you to show off when you left the academy. However, during your days in the academy, you had to obediently listen to the instructors. Otherwise, there was no need to go to Tianzong Academy. Therefore, Xia Shui and the others were familiar with Wang Ding, and Wang Ding was also very polite to his own people. When your headmaster sent you all here to help, did he mention what those things were? Wang Ding had no idea what the thing in front of him was. He had only received news earlier that some powerful water-type meta-beasts would appear in the river in the city. But he didn't expect it to be so powerful. It's an abyssal monster, Xia Shui said. At the same time, Xia Shui also pulled out an extremely cold sword in her hand. Cold light radiated from it. Just by approaching it, one would feel as if one's flesh and blood had been frozen. This was an ice-type demigod artifact. Chen Feng and Ji Fu also looked at him enviously. Quasi-artifact. If Xia Shui didn't have this semi-artifact in her hands, it would be impossible for her to squeeze into the top 10 outstanding youths. Don't you think it's such a coincidence? He just so happened to have a demigod tool. Although this was equivalent to cheating, after all, this semi-divine tool was given to him by the dean of the Tianzong Academy. After giving it to Xia Shui, it naturally belonged to her. It was normal for her to be recognized as a part of her strength. The sword in Xia Shui's hand was called Falling Snow. Freezing falling snow. Xia Shui waved her sword aura. The river water in front of them suddenly changed, and ice once again condensed. The river water below was condensed into even thicker ice. Even from afar, one could feel the cold air from the surface of the ice river. You're just relying on the power of the falling snow sword. What's so great about that? Ji Fu said disdainfully and rolled her eyes. It seems like someone is also relying on the power of the Guanghan Bao. Otherwise, who knows how unbearable it would be? Xia Shui naturally saw Ji Fu and the others. Since Xia Shui appeared, Chen Feng's eyes were full of adoration. Compared to the shrewish Ji Fu beside him, he preferred Xia Shui, who was like an ice beauty. Only such a snow mountain could arouse his interest in conquering it. This layer of ice won't last long. The best way to get rid of these abyssal monsters is to fish them up. Kill them on the shore. This was the simplest and most direct way. If they were hiding in the water, it would be at least 10 times more difficult to find them and kill them. Wang Ding saw that these people were discussing. Obviously, they wanted to personally deal with these abyssal monsters. However, Wang Ding's intuition told him that the origins of these abyssal monsters were not to be underestimated. They were absolutely not something that these youngsters could deal with. He also didn't know what the deans were thinking, sending these people to their deaths. If things went wrong, something big would happen. Li Zongjio did not leave. Instead, he stood on the other side of the river. He was more aware of the current situation. However, Li Zongjio's eyes soon looked below the ice river. Because of the energy gathering here, a few young experts had directly attracted a large number of abyssal monsters. Although they had not yet broken out of the ice, it was obvious that breaking this thin layer of ice was something that would happen sooner or later. Li Zongjio was not in a hurry to make a move. Since there were disciples of his Tianzong Academy here, he would first observe the performance of these disciples. He wanted to see if the time that Lan Yuyan had spent on training them was really effective. If the people they cultivated were so weak that they could not withstand a single blow, then they would have to consider changing the management or changing the teaching model. Of course, Li Zongjio was also extremely biased towards his own people. No matter how strong or weak Xia Shui and the others were, they were still disciples of his Tianzong Academy. These abyssal monsters had no right to kill them. They're coming. Li Zongjio called out softly, which was also a reminder. The voice suddenly reminded Xia Shui and the others. Originally, Xia Shui and the others were also discussing the plan, but they did not have a unified opinion. Suddenly, they heard the voice and immediately became alert. At the same time, they looked at the surface of the ice river. However, Xia Shui frowned. Her eyes searched around in the darkness, trying to find the owner of the voice just now. Kacha! The ice layer gradually melted and broke. With Xia Shui's ability, naturally, there was no way to freeze the entire river. Soon, the broken ice was directly washed away by the river water. The river surface was restored to the water surface again, not the ice layer. But at the same time, the surface of the river became quite calm, just like a mirror. Logically speaking, although the river surface was not as turbulent as the sea, it was definitely not as calm as a mirror. Several people clenched the swords in their hands. Wang Ding waved his hand. Immediately, someone used a flying rope, and the soldiers on both sides directly formed a net of flying ropes. Iron chain net formation. There were sharp blades and spikes on the iron ropes, and the spikes were coated with strong poison. If anything jumped out of the river, it would be directly cut and then poisoned. The night itself was dark. But now, the river seemed to have become even darker. Bang! Suddenly, there was an explosion. Look! A soldier lowered his head abruptly and saw that the floor beneath his feet had actually cracked open in an instant. Even the stake he used to nail the iron chain had been directly shaken askew. Everyone retreat! Xia Shui saw this and quickly shouted, "Drag them back!" As soon as the voice fell, the two helpers brought by Xia Shui also acted and quickly grabbed the soldiers who were leaning on the shore. In the next second, the stones and soil on the shore were instantly shattered by a strange force. The sand instantly irrigated the river. They are widening the river. Widening the river. This river had been through tens of thousands of years and had long been fixed in shape. In most cases, it was met with solid stones on both sides, so it was impossible to continue widening. But now, these abyssal demons directly widened the river so that they could go wherever they wanted to go. Force them to come up. Chen Feng did not act to save these soldiers. In his opinion, these people were not strong enough, so they should not come up to add to the trouble. Otherwise, things would become more troublesome. And in the most situation, these people would just die in vain. Ji Fu pulled the Guanghan bow in her hand, and 3 frost feather arrows rushed out. When they rushed to the river surface, they immediately exploded. Boom! The situation at the scene suddenly became turbulent. 3 waves were blown up on the river surface. In these waves, there were more than 10 abyssal demons hidden. Tyrant Mystic Tiger. Chen Feng stomped his foot and released the power of his origin spirit. Level 6 Origin Spirit. Level 6 Mystic Beast 8 Mystic Tiger. Boom! Then, the Tyrant Mystic Tiger turned into sword energy and killed the abyssal demons in front of it. Instantly, sword energy flew, and tigers and wolves roared. In the blink of an eye, several abyssal demons were quickly cut in half. They fell to the ground. After struggling for a while, they lost their vitality. Then they turned into a pool of transparent liquid. Seeing this, Chen Feng looked at Xia Shui with great pride, as if to say that his method was the most effective method. But when Xia Shui saw the pool of liquid on the ground, she could not help but frown. This liquid was formed by the bodies of the abyssal demons, but how did the bodies of the abyssal demons turn into a pool of liquid? It was really strange. General Wang, please quickly evacuate everyone and maintain order on the street. Don't let anyone come close, or there will be countless casualties. Xia Shui pleaded. Everyone listen to my order. Retreat 500 meters, and leave the Mystic King experts. Wang Ding was not stupid. He would not let people die in vain. Chapter 1474. After everyone was dismissed, there were still close to 10 Yuan monarch experts left behind. After all, they could only bring a portion of the City Guard army with them. It was impossible to mobilize all of the City Guard army's experts. The rest of the City Guard army had to stay in their own territories to ensure the order of the rest of the place. The situation had changed faster than they had imagined. With the support of Ji Fu and the power of his own soul, Chen Feng knocked hundreds of abyssal monsters out of the water and easily killed them. The corpses of the hundreds of abyssal monsters had all turned into transparent liquid and scattered all over the ground. Stop! Don't kill anymore. This is their scheme. Xia Shui saw the transparent liquid piled up all over the ground. The origin of these mysterious liquids was unknown. They suddenly appeared and were almost arranged on the ground. At a glance, it looked very orderly. How could there be such a coincidence? It must be a trap. When Qinfeng heard Xia Shui's words, he thought that Xia Shui was jealous of his killing speed. He immediately laughed. Xia Shui, I think you've wasted your time on the billboard. You'd better back off. Leave these things to me. Qinfeng was obviously very confident. Suddenly, a large group of black shadows rushed out from the river. After these black shadows appeared, they rushed toward Qinfeng at the same time. Qinfeng didn't expect the attacks of the abyssal tribe to be so ferocious. However, no matter how ferocious the attacks were, as long as he kept a certain distance, the abyssal tribe wouldn't be able to do anything to him. All their attacks would be ineffective. The attack was nullified, and the abyssal tribe quickly returned to the water. Qinfeng retreated rapidly, wanting to keep a distance from this group of abyssal demons. There were several sneak attacks just now, but they were all bark and no bite. They couldn't get close to Qinfeng at all. That was why Qinfeng could keep repeating the same trick and kill so many abyssal monsters. However, this time, the abyssal monster had no intention of retreating. Instead, it quickly chased after Qinfeng. What? With the help of the weak light, Qinfeng also clearly saw the appearance of these abyssal monsters. They looked like spiders, but they had a total of 16 legs. Moreover, there was a transparent mucosal net between their legs. It was this special structure that allowed these abyssal monsters to bring the prey on the shore directly into the water. Swish! Just as Qinfeng was retreating, powerless to defend himself, an arrow flew over from the side. Ji Fu had killed an abyssal monster near Qinfeng. His body exploded in the air, turning into a transparent liquid that fell to the ground. This gave Qinfeng a chance to catch his breath. After landing on the ground, the abyssal monsters retreated continuously. However, after landing on the ground, the abyssal monsters didn't show any signs of discomfort. Xia Shui observed for a while. The places where these abyssal monsters fell were also where the transparent liquid was. If there were some places that weren't replenished, they would directly kill their companions and use the transparent liquid piled up by their companions' corpses to continue approaching and attacking. Qinfeng hadn't seen it clearly yet, so he couldn't understand how these abyssal monsters could come ashore. However, a large number of monsters had already rushed to the shore and clashed with Wang Ding and the others. The falling snow in Xia Shui's hands surged with cold light and sword energy. In an instant, several terrifying ice roads appeared under her feet. Not only did it freeze the abyssal monsters along the way, but it also froze the transparent liquid released by these abyssal monsters. As soon as they touched the ground, they would directly turn into a pool of transparent liquid. It was like the feeling of being killed. This should also be a curse belonging to the abyssal clan. They could never go ashore. If they went ashore, only death would await them. However, there were too many abyssal monsters. Just by paving the road with their corpses, they could directly pounce on a path. Boom! An abyssal monster that was nearly 10 meters tall rushed out directly. When this demonic monster rushed out, it could clearly feel an extremely strong sense of oppression coming at it. Not good. It's a higher-level abyssal monster. We can't resist it. Xia Shui saw this abyssal monster and knew that this was a serious matter. I'll hold this thing back. You guys go to the academy and ask for help. Little you, go to the White Deer Mansion and ask for help. Xia Shui shouted in a low voice. The 10-meter-tall abyssal monster appeared in front of them. It was as if a small mountain was blocking their path. Eldest senior sister, go quickly. This is an order. Xia Shui shouted. If they were still hesitant in front of danger, it was equivalent to courting death. Therefore, they must not be soft-hearted. Hearing the word, order, the two of them were stunned. Their hearts skipped a beat. Then, they calmed themselves down and quickly fled into the distance. Li Zongjio saw this scene and nodded. This little girl was not bad. At least her character could be said to be very to Li Zongjio's liking. She never did things sloppily. She was the same as Santong. Santong, who had been foreseen in the past, also had the same willpower. After some nurturing, he would be able to play a big role. San Tong was currently training disciples for the Li family. He had even specially cultivated an extremely elite assassination squad. In fact, now the Li family's various methods could be said to be endless, and they had expanded their strength in all aspects. It was impossible for Li Zongjio to figure it out. However, when facing the enemy, if he only thought about waiting for others to come to his aid, he would be killed sooner or later. If he really wanted to be rescued, he had to become stronger. This strongest abyssal monster was completely blocked by Xia Shui. On the other hand, there was a big mistake on Qin Feng's side. First, Qin Feng was stabbed by the other party. Even his inner armor was directly penetrated, and there was a bloody hole in his waist. After that, Qin Feng was also quite passive. If it were not for Ji Fu's support, he would probably have been killed by these abyssal monsters. Wang Ding led the city guards to fight these abyssal monsters. The abyssal monsters' combat power was similar to the Yuan King realm. As long as they reached the Yuan King realm, they could resist them. Moreover, Wang Ding himself was a Yuan King, so killing him was extremely easy. Boom! Another 10-meter-tall abyssal monster rushed out of the river. Xia Shui had blocked one with great difficulty, and now there was another one. Let me do it! Wang Ding roared, broke away from the city guard's battle formation, and rushed toward the 10-meter-tall abyssal monster. This 10-meter-tall abyssal monster's strength was roughly equivalent to a peak Yuan King or a half-step Yuan King realm. Therefore, it was very easy for Wang Ding to block it. However, from the river, 3 10-meter-tall abyssal monsters continued to jump out one after another. They quickly charged toward Qin Feng and Ji Fu. Be careful! Xia Shui saw this scene and immediately shouted to remind the two of them. However, this shout also allowed her opponent to find a gap. A sudden spike directly pierced toward her heart. It was extremely swift and fierce. Immediately, Xia Shui felt as though she had been targeted and was about to be killed. It was this feeling that made Xia Shui's body stiffen. However, the piercing pain that she had imagined piercing through her body did not come. She looked down. The spikes of the other party's spider legs had been cut off unknowingly. Of course, only the one that was attacking her had been cut off. Xia Shui did not have time to be puzzled. The sword aura of the cold sword in her hand increased greatly. The sword slashed the abyssal monster in front of her. The cold air instantly poured into the abyssal monster's body, freezing it completely. Break! She raised her hand and killed the abyssal monster in front of her with a palm. The other party's body directly turned into ice shards and fell to the ground. Xia Shui withdrew her palm. Suddenly, she thought of the situation of Qin Feng and the others and turned her head. She saw Qin Feng's head being directly cut off by the spiked spider leg of an abyssal monster. In an instant he was thrown dozens of meters high, and blood splattered all over the sky. When Xia Shui saw this scene, she was even stunned for a moment. Naturally, she had seen dead people before. She had even killed many bad people. However, Qin Feng was someone she was familiar with. In the blink of an eye, his head flew 6 meters from the ground, and he was completely dead. This was the first time she had seen such a shocking scene. After all, Qin Feng was an old opponent of hers. But now, his head was directly cut off by these abyssal monsters. Such a feeling from the beginning to the end was a great shock to Xia Shui. In fact, Qin Feng didn't have to die so quickly. Naturally, it was because Li Zongjio had done something. Since he intended to train Xia Shui, he had to let Xia Shui experience a bloody scene. Only in this way could she grow up quickly. Of course, such an action was naturally a little cruel in the eyes of others. However, Li Zongjio didn't care. I don't care about you. If you have any different opinions, then come to me and tell me. If I can't change your opinion, I can kill you directly. So, he let Xia Shui see this scene. Qin Feng. Ji Fu was also stunned when she saw this. Qin Feng had the protection of the jade pendant. How could he be killed in an instant? When Qin Feng's body fell to the ground, a light screen appeared. It was the protection jade pendant that Ji Fu was thinking about. Obviously, someone intervened and stopped the activation of the jade pendant. Evil creature! A thunderous voice came from the sky, instantly exploding in their ears. Then, a strong gust of wind came and crushed the 3 abyssal demons near Ji-fu into pieces. Chapter 1475. It turned out that Ji-fu was also surrounded by 3 abyssal monsters. And Ji-fu was actually absent-minded just now. Fortunately, a gust of wind appeared in time and killed the 3 abyssal monsters. Li Zongjio took a glance and saw that it was an expert at the pinnacle of the primitive emperor realm. However, Li Zongjio didn't know the other party. He hadn't seen him before. Perhaps in these 2 years, the number of experts had exploded like a geyser. Such a situation couldn't be ruled out. When this expert at the pinnacle of the primitive emperor realm attacked, he easily killed the abyssal monsters in front of him. Boom! Immediately, these abyssal monsters retreated rapidly as if they had received an order. Xia Shui was also stunned when she saw this scene. Wang Ding took advantage of the situation and cut off the leg of the abyssal monster he was fighting. At the same time, he slashed the ladder into 2 halves. If the opponent wanted to escape, then their will to fight was much weaker. Therefore, in this battle, momentum was very important. One absolutely could not relax like this. One must maintain one's own fighting strength. If you only think about running away, or if you just want to barely resist, then there is a possibility that the opponent will find an opportunity to kill you. The rest of the abyssal monsters quickly escaped from the river, leaving a mess on the ground and several corpses. 2 of the city guards were also killed. Wang Ding would definitely reward these 2 for their heroic sacrifice. There was also another person, Qin Feng, whose head flew more than 20 meters away. Qin Feng, the old man who came with the power of wind and thunder, directly landed in front of Qin Feng and saw Qin Feng's corpse. He couldn't believe it. Even its head had been chopped off. Just how brutal was the battle just now? These things were actually so vicious. Academician Qin Songyuan. Ji-fu was also shocked when she saw the person who came. At the same time, she knew that something bad was going to happen. The person who came was called Qin Songyuan. In the Azure Ocean Academy, there wasn't an elder position. However, after a person had taught for many years, accumulated enough contributions, and improved their strength, they would be promoted to an academician. It was equivalent to the position of an elder. However, the Azure Ocean Academy wanted to do something different. Hence, they were all called academicians. The worst part was academician Qin Song. Coincidentally, he was Qin Feng's father. How could anyone bear to see their own son beheaded? This was a huge blow to Qin Song. Furthermore, in order to nurture Qin Feng, Qin Song could be said to have poured in his entire life's worth of effort. As long as Qin Feng grew up in the future, he would definitely be a limitless existence. But now, his head was separated from his body. This made Qin Song extremely sad. Wang Ding and Xia Shui gathered. At the same time, they arrived before Qin Feng. After all, Qin Feng had been killed for the sake of protecting the sacred flame royal city. In the end, he had acted courageously. Academician Qin, please restrain your grief. My city guards will apply for a Good Samaritan award for young hero Qin Feng so that people will remember young hero Qin Feng's contribution to the sacred flame royal city. Wang Ding said. He could only agree to this thing. He couldn't give anything else. At most, he would give a symbolic reward. Hence, this was also why Wang Ding rejected the help of these people. After all, in this kind of situation, it was fine if you didn't die in the end. At most, you would have to apply for some medical expenses. However, your strength wasn't enough and you died directly. Who was to blame for this? You died for nothing. If the parents were more open-minded, they wouldn't come and cause trouble. However, there would always be some people who didn't know what was good for them and insisted on causing trouble. Of course, Wang Ding wasn't afraid of these troublemakers, but it was still an annoying thing. Hence, it was a very good choice to resolve this earlier. It was best if they didn't join. If they needed to join, the city guards would also notify them. There were rules and regulations. Now that Qin Feng was dead, wouldn't he have died for nothing? No need. Thank you, General Wang Ding. Qin Song let out a long sigh. Who was to blame for this? No one would have thought that things would turn out like this. In itself, it was just a failure trial. The Azure Sea Academy wanted to be in front of others and establish meritorious deeds and prestige. This was to increase the reputation of the Azure Sea Academy. However, they didn't expect that they would lose their only son's life in this battle. Academician Chen Feng was killed by someone. Just when Chen Song was about to take Chen Feng's body away, Ji Fu, who was at the side, spoke. At the same time, she looked at Wang Ding and Xia Shui with an extremely vigilant and scrutinizing gaze. She was an archer herself, so her perception of her surroundings was extremely sharp. However, at the moment when she sensed that Chen Feng was in danger, there was indeed an inexplicable force that appeared, preventing the power of Chen Feng's amulet from activating. At the same time, it also fixed Chen Feng's body. Although it was only for a short moment, the consequences were obvious. There was no resistance at all, and there was no way to reverse the situation. His head was chopped off. How strong was the opponent? Ji Fu, what did you say? Chen Song immediately looked at Ji Fu, obviously in disbelief. He then looked at Xia Shui and Wang Ding. Of course, his gaze eventually locked onto Xia Shui. This was because Xia Shui was a member of the Tianzong Academy. Although there wasn't any deep hatred between the two academies, they were still in a competitive relationship. Xia Shui and Chen Feng had fought in the arena before, but Xia Shui was defeated in the end. Now that Xia Shui also appeared in such an occasion, it was indeed possible that she secretly attacked Chen Feng and killed him. However, Xia Shui's big eyes also widened. Thinking back, the scene she saw was indeed a little too coincidental. However, it was just a coincidence. She only had time to turn around and see Chen Feng's head flying off. She didn't see anything else. Little girl, you have to take responsibility for your nonsense. Are you saying that someone in the city guard army deliberately attacked and killed Chen Feng? Wang Ding was instantly unhappy. This little girl's words clearly meant that he was the one who did it. After all, he was the only one present who had such strength. No, Chen Feng's amulet was tampered with by someone. It wasn't activated when he was in danger. Instead, it was activated after his death. This means that someone secretly suppressed the power of Chen Feng's amulet. Moreover, although the abyssal monster's attack speed is fast, with Chen Feng's speed, he was absolutely confident that he could dodge it. There must be a strong person hiding in the dark here. It was this person who killed senior brother Chen Feng. As she spoke, Ji Fu also used her sharp eyes to size up the surrounding environment, trying to find the person who secretly attacked them. The opponent's method was simply superb and mysterious. Perhaps his target wasn't only senior brother Chen Feng, but also the rest of them. If they couldn't find the opponent, there would still be people from the Azure Sea Academy who would be mysteriously assassinated in the future. The opponent's method was no different from an assassination. Who is it? Get out here. Thinking that his child was actually assassinated, Chen Song couldn't care less. How could Chen Song care so much? He was already very sad, but he didn't expect such a turn of events. Now, even if these people had nothing to do with him, Chen Song would definitely vent his anger on them. This matter would definitely not be settled so easily. However, no matter how hard the two of them searched, they couldn't find Li Zongjio. In fact, Li Zongjio was standing not far away, but the difference between their realms was too great. There was no comparison at all. Therefore, even if Chen Song used all his strength, it was impossible for him to find Li Zongjio. He had such a powerful strength in the first place. He couldn't find the person who secretly attacked them, since the opponent killed Chen Feng and didn't kill Xia Shui and the rest. This meant that this matter was related to Xia Shui. It's you. It must be someone from your Tianzong Academy. Despicable and shameless. I'll take you down now. I don't believe that the person hiding in the dark won't appear. Chen Song couldn't find Li Zongjio, so he directly locked his eyes on Xia Shui. After all, Xia Shui was from the Tianzong Academy. Chen Feng died, but she was fine. Your strength was obviously weaker than Chen Feng. How could you be alive? At this moment, Chen Song didn't care about anything and directly grabbed at Xia Shui. Xia Shui's face suddenly changed. The opponent was at the peak of the primitive emperor realm, which was almost 2 realms higher than her. Under such a huge gap, Xia Shui felt like she was imprisoned in place. The snowfall sword in his hands suddenly vibrated. It released a gust of cold air. Breaking the shackles around her, Xia Shui immediately retreated. At this moment, Wang Ding also felt Qin Song's action. "Qin Song, what are you doing? How dare you kill in front of me?" Xia Shui was from the Tianzong Academy. Of course, Wang Ding had to protect her well and not allow anyone to bully her. Otherwise, if the White Deer Mansion blamed him, even Wang Ding wouldn't be able to bear it. Moreover, Xia Shui's identity wasn't simple. She was now the person recommended by the Tianzong Academy in order to cultivate Xia Shui. How could he let Qin Song kill her? However, Qin Song was a peak primitive emperor expert after all. He wasn't someone Wang Ding and the rest could stop. "Those who block me will die." Qin Song shouted fiercely, but he didn't kill Wang Ding. A palm of wind and thunder directly sent Wang Ding and more than 10 Yuan King experts flying. The gap between realms was obvious. His figure instantly appeared in front of Xia Shui, and then he grabbed her neck. His eyes looked into the darkness. Chapter 1476. If you don't show up, I'll kill her. Qin Song's eyes were cold. Xia Shui was controlled by him, and she had no way to break free. Her origin energy was restricted in her body, and the snowfall sword fell to the ground with a clang. Qin Song's 5 fingers tightened, and Xia Shui immediately felt a strong sense of suffocation. "Qin Song, if she dies, everyone in your Azure Ocean Academy will die." Wang Ding quickly said. He wasn't joking. He was serious. From the time Xiao Zhao and the others had been running all over the place to build the Sky Sect Academy until now, one could imagine how much importance White Deer residents placed on the Sky Sect Academy. Although he hadn't seen the young lord for a long time, he had heard about the news of the young lord. But some time ago, he had heard the news of the young master's return, but Wang Ding couldn't find the opportunity to visit Li Zongjiu. Moreover, if the young master did not summon them, and if there was nothing important, they would not disturb Li Zongjiu. However, if the young lord knew that the top disciple of Sky Sect Academy, Xia Shui, had been killed, he would definitely die. According to the young lord's temperament, the tens of thousands of people in Azure Ocean Academy wouldn't be able to escape. Wang Ding was very clear about the young lord's temper. He would treat his own people as well as he could. However, to outsiders, he would be as ruthless as he could be. If you provoked the young lord, sometimes you didn't even have to take the initiative to provoke him. However, once you revealed a little bit of your consciousness and intentions, you would be in trouble. The young lord would definitely exterminate your entire family. Do you really think my Azure Ocean Academy is easy to bully? If you don't give me an explanation today, General Wang, I don't think you can leave here alive. Qin Song's eyes became terrifying. Swoosh! A command arrow shot into the sky from Ji Fu's hand. It was the command arrow of Azure Ocean Academy. The current situation couldn't be solved so easily. Senior brother Chen Feng's death was a very important matter to Azure Ocean Academy. If a disciple of Azure Ocean Academy died without knowing the reason and the Academy didn't do anything about it, Azure Ocean Academy would lose its credibility. By then, Azure Ocean Academy would cease to exist. Since you don't want to come out, I won't let this matter rest. Qin Song tightened his grip. He wanted to break Xia Shui's neck directly. His son was dead, and the woman in front of him definitely couldn't escape. How could he let her continue to live? Boom! Xia Shui suddenly felt her body fall to the ground. She was originally out of breath, but now she could breathe fresh air. Not far in front of him, a severed arm fell to the ground. When Xia Shui saw the broken arm on the ground, her eyes widened. At the same time, he saw Qin Song's look of disbelief and extreme shock. Because this was a severed arm that had fallen to the ground. It was Qin Song's arm. Who was he? Academician Qin Song, the youngest academician of the Azure Ocean Academy. He had a bright future ahead of him. At such a young age, Qin Song was already at the pinnacle of the primitive emperor realm. At least in the Azure Sea Academy, Qin Song's strength was already at the peak. It was also something that brought honor to the family. However, the child that she was so proud of had been assassinated. This was unacceptable to him. But now, he didn't know when his arm was cut off and fell to the ground. Until he saw his arm fall to the ground. Only then did he slowly feel that his arm was no longer connected to him. A sharp pain came from the wound. My arm. Chen Song immediately covered his severed arm. Generally speaking, although a severed arm was painful, it wasn't unbearable for Chen Song. However, the pain this time was very obvious, and his Yuan Li had no way to heal the injury. This made Chen Song's heart involuntarily produce a trace of fear. At the same time, a light flashed in his mind. It must be this person who killed his son. I don't know if your Azure Ocean Academy is easy to provoke, but you and I can definitely afford to provoke them. Li Zongjio didn't boast. After all, compared to the past, he had long been low-key. If it was in the past, he might do something. Li Zongjio stood with his hands behind his back. He walked slowly on the surface of the river. Xia Shui took a few breaths and finally calmed herself down. Her small face was flushed red, and at the same time, she turned her head to look at Li Zongjio who was walking over from the river. It's him. It's definitely this voice. How sharp was Xia Shui? At the very beginning, Xia Shui heard a voice reminding everyone that the ice river was about to be breached. It was this voice. The one who cut off Chen Song's arm was this expert. As for whether Chen Feng's death had anything to do with Li Zongjio, to be honest, Xia Shui wasn't sure. However, this was a separate matter. Chen Song was already Xia Shui's enemy, because Chen Song was ready to kill her just now. Li Zongjio, on the other hand, was his savior. Of course, Xia Shui didn't know Li Zongjio's identity. Academician. Ji Fu hurried to Chen Song's side and drew the Guanghan bow in her hand, aiming at the figure walking over from the river. Li Zongjio walked to the shore. Although Wang Ding was lying on the ground, he struggled to get up. When he heard the voice and the tone of the voice, Wang Ding already knew who was coming. Other than his young master, who else in the world could say such arrogant words in such a calm manner? Wang Ding immediately knelt in the direction of Li Zongjio without hesitation. Wang Ding, greetings, greetings my ass, get up, get up. Li Zongjio directly raised his hand, and Wang Ding's legs involuntarily stood up. At the same time, a stream of energy flowed into his body, helping Wang Ding to heal his internal injuries. In just 2 breaths of time, Wang Ding's internal injuries were completely healed. Even the many internal injuries left behind from the battle and the damage to the meridians caused by the breakthrough were all completely healed at this moment. Everything was like a dream, even more surreal than a dream. It was his young master. Only his young master would have such a temper and such means. 2 years and only this level of cultivation. Shame. Li Zongjio said lightly. However, Wang Ding wasn't young after all. His cultivation was considered above average. Although Li Zongjio hadn't been around for many years, Wang Ding's loyalty hadn't changed. This was something that Li Zongjio appreciated and liked very much. It didn't matter if you were strong or talented. Anyway, you weren't as strong or talented as Li Zongjio. In that case, it was enough for you to understand what loyalty was. This way, Li Zongjio didn't have to waste time cleaning up the sect. You are. Xia Shui also got up from the ground at this moment. Wang Ding bowed to Li Zongjio, so how could the other party's identity be simple? Therefore, Xia Shui didn't dare to neglect. What's your name? Li Zongjio asked. I'm Xia Shui, a disciple of Tianzong Academy. Xia Shui secretly raised her head and glanced at Li Zongjio. It wasn't until Li Zongjio approached that Xia Shui saw Li Zongjio's appearance clearly. She was shocked and quickly lowered her head, not daring to raise it again. How could he be so young? Li Zongjio seemed to be in his early 20s. What was his identity? Xia Shui? You did well. When Wang Ding heard Li Zongjio praising Xia Shui, there was only envy in his eyes. Those who were praised by Li Zongjio were basically in heaven. This meant that they had a meteoric rise. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. After all, Li Zongjio had the strength to give you a meteoric rise. Although she didn't know who Li Zongjio was, it felt a little strange to be suddenly praised, especially by someone who looked the same age. This is the owner of White Deer Mansion, the real founder of Tianzong Academy, the protector of the nation. The title of Evil Lord was used in Jianghu. Moreover, when the name Evil Lord was mentioned in front of children, it seemed like a bad boy, so Wang Ding chose another title. Xia Shui was stunned. The owner behind Tianzong Academy had always been a legendary existence. In fact, the first batch of students was Tianzong Academy, who was recruiting under the name of Li Zongjiu, the peak expert that everyone worshipped, Evil Lord. At this moment, he was standing in front of her. The person in front of her was the legendary person. Xia Shui felt as if she was dreaming. All of this was so unreal. Evil Lord. Xia Shui also signed up for Tianzong Academy because of her worship of Evil Lord. Otherwise, it would be difficult to recruit good students just by relying on the accumulation of such little resources. After all, the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor had a glorious history of over 100 years. How could it be better than a small Tianzong Academy? Acting without justification. Only Evil Lord could be used. If it wasn't for the name of Evil Lord behind it, other people who hadn't heard of it would think that Tianzong Medicine Mansion was some random school. In fact, there were many people who swindled others. Jianghu was dangerous. Lord Evil Lord, you are so young, Xia Shui also said subconsciously. However, when she said it, she realized that she seemed to have offended Evil Lord and immediately apologized. However, Li Zongjiu waved his hand. He turned to look at Chen Song, who was holding his broken arm and looking at him with a helpless expression. At this moment, Chen Song's heart and face were directly hit with a big question mark. Evil Lord? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.